right, we'll call to order the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, December 7, 2023. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member. Next to Jessica is Ed McGargy, a voting member. To my left, Ernie Angelos, our solicitor. To my right, Bill Rhodes, a voting member. Next to Bill is Jesse Poyton, a voting member. At the table to our far right, Gary Smith, a representative of the zoning office, and Margie, our right-hand person, Margie Buchanan. Bill, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Please rise if you can and repeat after me. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Right. We have one continued and two new cases this evening. Our first case is Z23-20, John P. Williamson, owner of 720 North Eagle Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2201-0036500, who seeks to appeal a notice of violation issued by the Township Zoning Officer on March 1st, 2023, regarding the placement of a 4-foot by 8-foot off-site advertising sign at the subject property and variances from the provisions of Section 182-701G1 to allow off-site advertising at the subject property and 182-701C1A1 to exceed the maximum total sign area of 6 square feet permitted on the property, as granted by variance by the Zoning Hearing Board on May 15, 2003, which was case number Z03-7. Property is zoned R5 and located in the 4th Ward. John.
Good evening.
So, Amy, do you want to enter your appearance? Or Amy, Kaylee, I'm sorry.
Sure. Kaylee Melcher on behalf of the Haverford Township Solicitor's Office. And just as a housekeeping measure, since the burden for the notice of violation is on the township, would you expect us to present first on that issue or go ahead with the variances first? I just didn't know how exactly we were going.
No, procedurally, I do believe that the township would have to present its case first in connection with the basis for the violation, and then turn it over to Mr. Williamson for his portion.
All right, I just wanted to.
Fine with me.
Kelly, how do you spell your last name?
MELCHIOR.
Okay. You want to enter? You want to enter? Before we begin, just to get it on the record.
Sorry, I wasn't
No worries.
paying attention. Hello, my name is Jennifer Bazidlo, B-A-Z-Y-D-L-O. I am here today representing some near neighbors who are requesting party status, Christina Webster and Paul Jocelyn. They live at 704 North Eagle Road and have received notice by mail of the hearing. So I would say that's sufficient contact for party status.
What were their names again, Jennifer?
Christina Webster and Paul Jocelyn, Joslin.
You said they are located right down the street from the subject property?
Yes, it's 704 North Eagle Road. And they did receive mailing notice of the hearing.
Okay, and Jennifer, if you want to sit up here in case there's an objection you want to interpose or whatever.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Kaylee.
Okay, I'd like to call Gary Smith, the zoning officer, if he could be sworn in.
Sure. Gary, you want to come up here, Gary?
Yeah, I'm not sure where they typically.
Yeah, typically, you would go over there to those microphones, and
Oh, okay.
Gary will stay here. That's okay.
I can do that.
Hey, Gary, please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and capacity in which you appear?
Gary J. Smith. I am the acting zoning officer as of Tuesday.
Okay. Go ahead, Kaylee.
And Mr. Smith, did you have the opportunity to review the file, the application, and the zoning ordinances relevant to the matter prior to this hearing?
Yes, I did.
And can you provide a brief background on the matter we're here for tonight?
Notice of violation was issued in March, and there were 3 violations, primarily installation of a temporary sign without a permit. The size of the sign exceeded the maximum permitted area for the township, and the sign itself was for an off-site advertisement, which according to township code is technically a billboard.
Does the zoning hearing board have a copy of the notice of violation?
No.
Okay.
So, Kaylee, did you pre-mark your exhibits, or
I did not pre-mark them.
let's use the letter T for township for your exhibit, and we'll go T1, however many you have, T1, T2, et cetera.
All right.
Yeah, but it's not all together, right?
And then I'll just,
Thank you. Thank you, Kaylee.
yeah. Yeah, no problem. Okay. All right. And do you have a copy of the notice of violation in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And can you state what the date on that document is?
March 1st, 2023.
And who is the notice of violation issued to?
Mr. Williamson.
And is Mr. Williamson the property owner of 720 North Eagle Road?
Yes, he is.
And can you provide an explanation of how the sign violates this section 182701B1 as listed in the notice of violation?
That section of the code pertains to obtaining a permit for any sign, even temporary signs. In this case, the sign did not qualify as an exemption, therefore a permit was required. No permit was obtained.
Okay. And can you describe the permit application process within the Haverford Township office?
Normally, well, just for zoning hearing board.
Well,
For the,
for the purposes of if a permit was requested.
I was going to say, yeah, because in this case, there was no request, but yes.
Right.
If a permit is submitted to the township and it does not meet the code, a letter will be written to that effect. The applicant can either revise the application to conform with the code, or with any zoning issue, they always have the option of going to the zoning hearing board for relief.
And if a permit was applied for, would that show up in a system on the township, within the township?
Yes, the township uses Logic to track all their permits.
Okay. My apologies. If you'll just indulge me one moment so that I can get these together.
You just give them to Jess and she'll pass them.
So we'll mark this T2.
Yes, T2, please. Is this a printout? Do you have this form in front of you as well? Okay.
Yes, I do.
And is this a printout of what it would look like for this, what it looks like for this property when you go into that system to see what permits have been granted or applied for in the past.
Correct. This is a complete list for that property.
And on that list, is there any permit application or approval for the sign at issue as part of this notice of violation?
No.
Okay. Is there any sign that was previously given a permit that is potentially expired? Is that what this sign is?
On this printout here where it has the 3 temporary signs, yes, there was a temporary permit issued in 2004 for temporary permits, for temporary signs at that time, and that obviously has expired. And those signs are not on the property.
And those signs are not the signs that we're talking about today?
Correct, different signs.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that the only way a permit could be issued is if it was entered into that system?
Am I allowed to object to the hearsay? Certainly. Well, I'd like to object to this whole line of testimony. You know, they're going over business records or not, and I just, it's all hearsay, and it's all business records. I don't even know if this gentleman was even working for the township back at that time.
Well, he wasn't working for the township back at that time, but this list of permit, I mean, go ahead, Kelly, you can respond.
Well, first I would say that
We have an objection. Do you want to rule on the objection?
No, I want her to answer, I want her response to his objection, and then we'll rule on it.
so the rules of evidence for the zoning hearing board are more lax than in typical court. I think that the zoning officer is able to speak to how the system works. While he may not have been at this exact township at the time that these permits were issued, I certainly think he has testified that he's made himself familiar with the records and everything involved in how this permitting process would work. I think he's able to speak on it.
And this exhibit, T2, is a list of permits that were issued for the property,
Yes,
which was printed from the township's internal system?
yes.
Okay. Overruled. Go ahead.
So the notice of violation also states that the sign violates the May 15th, 2023 zoning decision for case Z37. Have you reviewed that decision and order?
Yes.
Okay, and what relief was granted in that decision?
Actually, the application, they were looking for a sign of 4x4, but the decision limited the sign to actually a 24x36, which was consistent with the prior decision.
And was that for a sign that would indicate the type of work that was being done on that property?
Correct. That was a permanent business sign, I believe is still there today.
Okay, and that decision did not grant a variance for this sign that's at issue before the zoning hearing board
No,
today?
that was not granted.
Okay. And the sign at issue today, how would you define that sign pursuant to the Haverford Township zoning code?
Again, it's a sign advertising for an off-site issue, and it would be considered a billboard. It has nothing to do with the property itself.
And is that type of sign permitted in this on that property in that location?
No, it is not.
Okay. And does the notice of violation state the date for when steps for compliance must be commenced or completed?
They have 30 days to respond,
Okay.
either by removing the sign or by applying to the zoning hearing board.
And you said you have reviewed Mr. Williamson's zoning application, correct?
Correct.
And in the application, it states he was authorized to place that sign. Did you review any document or evidence that supports that he was authorized or permitted by the township to place that sign?
He was not authorized based
Okay.
on the based on the documents.
Okay. At this point, those are all the questions that I have regarding the notice of violation. I think that it meets the criteria. And so I will allow response.
John?
Across the-
Absolutely.
Yeah, from where?
Where Kaylee was, yes.
Thank you. Gary, I didn't catch your last name.
Smith,
How long have you been working for the township?
since Tuesday. This is my second day.
And you're talking about records that, how long has that sign been there?
Are you talking about the sign from Mart?
4 foot by 8 foot sign.
How long has it been there? I don't know.
Do you live in the township?
I do not.
Never seen that.
No, I did not. And again, I've noticed that there's been different signs there, but I don't know when that actual sign was taken down.
That question is completely irrelevant to ask a township employee where he lives.
Well, I
That's
said
sustained.
You live in the township.
Okay,
I wanted to know.
all right, let's move on.
Now, did you examine all the records of the township of Haverford regarding zoning over the last 15 years?
No, I did not.
Did you look at all the letters that were received on any zoning questions over the last 15 years?
No, I did not.
Okay. Do you know who Lori Wittop is?
No, I do not.
Okay, you know who Joe Celia is?
I think he's the code enforcement guy. Again, I just got here on Tuesday. There's a Joe. I'm not sure if that's his last name.
Okay, and
Sorry.
what is your job?
I'm now the zoning officer, like I said, as of Tuesday.
And that's the job that Joe Celia used to have?
Oh, I don't know that.
Okay. I'm going to hand you okay, sorry. I'm going to hand you a letter which I sent out to the code enforcement office 8 years ago.
John, we're gonna mark your exhibits with A for applicant, okay? So your scheme will be A1, A2, A1 for your first exhibit, and so on.
Okay.
A1.
You didn't find this letter that I just, did I give you a copy?
No.
Here you go. Would you take a peek at that for me? Read it to yourself.
I do remember seeing this in the file.
Okay, you did remember that, okay? And can you tell me,
Kaylee, did you get a copy of this?
Yes.
Jennifer, you have one?
okay, that's the wrong one. I think I gave too many of them out. Borrow that back.
Yeah, so I figured it might be easier. That's the right one.
Let me ask you this, that's A1. Did you recognize that letter?
Unfortunately, no, this one doesn't ring a bell. That one I did see, believe it or not. Sure.
Read it?
So John, just so we properly identify, A1, it's a letter from you
To Lori Wittop.
to the Township of Haverford Department of Code Enforcement. Attention, Lori, dated June 16, 2015. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So you've read it? Okay.
Yeah, I don't quite, oh, okay, yeah, I just don't quite
Okay.
get what that means, but,
You don't know God bless you?
no,
Everyone-
the frame, I don't know,
Okay,
just,
all right.
yeah.
Well, let me just read that letter to you. You did not find this letter in your...
I don't recall.
Here, Gary. So you have a copy in front of you when he's asking you a question.
Dear Lori, I never put up a community billboard. As you remember, the frame was used for God Bless Us Everywhere. I'm getting old, my hair is turning white, my eyesight is failing, my memory has dimmed. Nevertheless, I believe in 2010, I did an application for the frame at your request. In fact, a little later, Joe came by and had me move the frame out of the intersection. Is that Joe Sealy still working for the township?
I don't know. I said I just got here Tuesday. Sorry.
Yeah, I hear you. Did you talk to Lori Wetup to see if she did indeed?
Never met her.
Have you heard the name?
I've heard the name, but I don't know her.
And if I told you that that sign's been up there for 13 or 14 years, and the first time that anybody complained about it with a citation was 14 years later after the sign went up, would that make you hesitate a little bit about whether or not there was a violation here?
Question is, you tell me you changed the sign?
Pardon me?
Did you say you changed the sign? I mean, you said it was God Bless America, and then you changed it so many years later?
Well, yeah, it's changed every season when they
Technically,
was
there's,
a race or
technically there should be a permit every time you change the sign. I'm just saying, according to township code, that's the for a temporary sign.
in any event, you didn't talk to Lori, you didn't talk to Joe Sealy about the sign.
No.
Okay, if somebody helped me move the sign who worked for the code enforcement office in 2015, or in 2010, and helped me move that sign back from the road a little bit, what would the purpose of moving that sign back from the road?
If it's public works, I assume it's a clear sight triangle issue. But he would have no idea whether or not it was a permitted sign. He would just be looking at a sign that's a clearance issue.
So would somebody from the code enforcement office help me move that sign if it was an illegal sign?
I have no idea. The answer more likely would be if it's a clear sight triangle issue, they may.
I don't think I would.
Jennifer? Sure. You can have a seat, John.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No worries.
Oh, did you want this back? Or
Now there's to go back
it goes up? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
You're the zoning officer, correct?
As of Tuesday.
And that is different than the code enforcement officer, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
that is different.
And so what is your responsibility? Like, you don't have to go into detail, but generally, the duties of the zoning officer are different than a code enforcement officer, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And again, we're still working on that, but I'm more into the land development issues and things of that nature, where they're handling more of the day-to-day permit issues.
And you're more responsible for reviewing zoning permits, not construction permits.
Correct.
All right, that's it, that's all.
Billy? Read it.
Mr. Smith, I'll direct you back to the list of permits that I had previously provided to you and to the board.
T2.
Yes, T2, sorry. Is there, on this list, is there a permit issued for a sign in 2010?
No, there is not.
Okay. And if a permit had been issued for that sign in 2010, it absolutely would be on this permit list. Is that your understanding?
It should be, absolutely.
I'd object to that.
Go ahead. Well, I'm going to allow it.
Okay. Can you think of a situation that would cause a permit to be issued and not end up in this form? Well,
Not
like
off the top of my head, because there's a few people that would handle the permit, and somewhere along the line, usually people are looking at the system, and I'm sure someone would have flagged it somewhere along the way.
And a permit shows up in a specific form. Everyone gets a specific form that allows them to prove that they have a permit. If someone were to show up to their house and ask them, do you have a permit for this sign?
Correct.
Can you note my continuing objection to hearsay?
Will do.
Particularly in this case where the fellow just got hired a couple days ago.
Mr. Smith, are you at all uncomfortable speaking to the issues raised today due to your recent employment? Or do you feel like you were adequately able to review the file, which is why we did not ask for a continuance in this matter?
No, I feel,
Kelly, you're asking him procedure questions. He's not said he was heard or he was told, so I'm not quite sure where the hearsay argument even arises from, but you know, you described the process. A permit would be issued, it would be entered into the system.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Smith.
Jennifer, anything else? John, anything else?
I have nothing further for that.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, with the initial presentation of the violation, I think it's Mr. Williamson's turn now to present his case in chief.
You have nothing else, right, Kelly?
I don't have anything else regarding
Okay.
the notice of violation.
Now the floor is yours, John.
The preliminary hearing's over? Is this okay? This spot? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Williamson. I'm an attorney. I'm an attorney since 1977, and I moved into this township in 1960 at the age of 7. I own 3 properties in the township, including the property in question at 720 North Eagle Road. I have a house which I bought in 1981, and I own my mother's house, at least part of it, which she purchased in 1962. I've been paying over $20,000 a year in taxes, especially since I got my house in 1981. And I am perplexed as to why I am here tonight. The property where my sign is located has 2 street signs on it. It's got a traffic signal. It's got 2 crosswalk signs, posts, which are technically on my side of the sidewalk. And they were put up, since I purchased this property about 20 years ago. Also, at the time that I got this notice for a sign, there were 4 huge detour signs on that property. And I did not complain one little bit. Additionally, 2 months later, I got a brand new fire hydrant on my property, and this is not a real big property. So we got all these things on my property, and somebody's going after the sign that it's been there for 14 years. I ran for public office several times in Haverford Township, and one of the last times I ran was in 2009 when I ran for commissioner in the 4th Ward. And then when I was done with the race, I lost by 35 lousy votes. And my district had been gerrymandered the year before, taking away Circle Drive. I live at the corner of Circle and Fairmont, and Circle Drive was taken away from me. And I could count 35 votes right across the street from me, which I couldn't have. But in any event, I was disappointed, but I put in front of my office a big sign that said, "Thank you." And it was a big 4x8 sign, and I did not get a permit for it. And then I changed it to "God bless you." And then I changed it a couple days later to "God bless us, everyone." And that sign has stood there for 14 years. A couple days after I put up the "God bless us, everyone" sign, Lori Widdop, who was the code enforcement officer at the time, called me up and said, "You've got to get a permit for that." So she had me fill out a permit application, and she approved that sign in 2010, early in 2010. And that sign has sat there ever since. A couple months after the sign was up, Lori called me up and said, you're going to have to move that sign out of the intersection because it's blocking traffic. And so Joe Celia, who's, I think was the head of Code Enforcement Office last time I heard, helped me move that sign from closer to the intersection to back to where it is today. And it has stood in that same spot for 13 years.
And Lori issued a permit for that?
Lori
John?
issued a permit for it, and that's all I heard about the sign for about 5 years. And then one day, Lori said she was going to file a citation against me for that sign. And then I sent that letter that I sent there. It's probably here. And I'll just read it again.
Do you happen to have a copy of the permit that Lori issued? to you?
I do not, and, nor do I have any of the permits for all these other things that I had signs for over the years. It's not something you think that, once you get a permit, you don't think you need it anymore, especially, 14 years later. So anyway, a few months after that, or 5 years later, and that's after, Joe helped me move that sign, Lori said she's going to give me a citation because I have this sign up. And I said, you gave me that sign. And I wrote her that letter. I'm getting old, my hair's turning white, my eyesight's failing, my memory is dimmed. But nevertheless, I believe in 2010, I did an application for the frame at your request. And in fact, a little later, Joe came by, and that Joe means Joe Celia, and he had me move their frame out of the intersection to, closer to the office and away from the intersection. So they knew that sign was there. Everybody knew it was there. It was there for 5 years. And after I sent that letter out, Lori didn't say anything. She didn't file the citation against me. And she obviously remembered, that she had given me that permit for the sign.
I would just object to the speculation of what she remembered. I mean, she's not here to testify that. She didn't get subpoenaed by Mr. Williamson, and you're speaking about her impressions and not providing any evidence of her having stated that, including a permit.
So your objection is duly noted, and we'll give the testimony the appropriate weight. But since he's speaking as an applicant, I'll allow him to continue, but.
In any event, after that letter went out in 2015, I heard nothing at all about the sign. Nobody objected. Now, that's not true. Every time I put something that says God bless on it, people go crazy when you put God in a sign. Or if you put a name like Trump on the sign, everybody goes nuts. So people object, but nobody from the township objected to it or complained for 8 years after that. So you've got 8 more years, and then in March of this year, I get the note from the township. In the meantime, that sign has advertised the following nonprofits: Johnny's Run for Life for 13 years, Haverford Township Historical Society, at least 5 or 6 times that's been up there. The Kevin Kane Run, at least 5 or 6 times that's been advertised using that sign. Former Commissioner McDonald's Golf Tournament, advertised that 2 or 3 times on that sign. Patty Lake Quinn's ALS basketball tournament's been advertised 4 or 5 times on that sign. Thrive, which is the current nonprofit that's on there. Sacred Heart Shamrock Run was advertised on that sign. So all the things that were put on the sign were nonprofits, almost all from the township, and political advertising, and which I think is constitutionally protected in any event. And that sign is not hidden from anybody for 13 or 14 years that I pulled this out, but it's been there. It was attacked 15 times during the Trump when Trump was running in 2020 by anonymous felons. And that's what it is. So I think that you should dismiss this notice of this violation for many reasons. Number one, code enforcement gave me that permit 13 years ago. Number two, code enforcement never revoked that permit. Code enforcement seconded that permit by sending Joe Celia out to help me move the sign. You know, they were approving it by just helping me move. They, you know, if it was illegal, they would have told me to take it down instead of helping me move it. Code enforcement never withdrew the permit or, you know, try to cancel the permit. Lori obviously canceled that citation that she threatened to give me because it's been 8 years since that period of time. It's been grandfathered in after 14 years. That sign's been there, not hiding it. It's all there. And it's only used for nonprofits and it's constitutionally protected when I use it for a political sign. And I don't think I need a variance for the above reasons, but since I paid 1.5 times the cost of what a variance would be, you know, I paid the $750 or whatever it was 1.5 times. I ask that you grant this, throw out this attempt by the township and grant this variance so this matter does not get raised again in the future. Thank you.
Hold on. Don, are you going to offer any evidence or argument about granting of the variance, which I assume is your alternative relief, or?
Well, I thought all the stuff that I talked about
Okay.
would go towards the variance, and so I don't want to go over it all again. But I mean, I could run it by you again, but I think I said enough.
So now you're here as a witness, and did I swear him?
No.
I didn't swear you, so I'm going to swear you after the fact.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, and I swear that everything I said was the truth.
Beat me to it. And since you're here as a witness, I'll ask Kaylee, or if you have any questions for Mr. Williamson.
No, I don't have any additional questions.
Jennifer?
I do. Do you need to swear me in or?
No, you're here as an attorney, not a witness.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, he's here as a witness.
I had a couple of quick questions. So you noted that since 2010, since the frame went up, the sign has changed its content several times. Notably, right now it's Thrive. When did you put up the sign for Thrive, and did you ever apply for a permit when you put that particular sign up?
I did not, and but believe it or not, usually the original sign is still there, just something covered it. Right now, you'll see behind that sign that's there, 2 damaged Trump signs and a few other things. So, and when these people come in and want to put a sign up, they just cover up. Usually, they have a vinyl thing and they just flip it over, and the sign's still there, but they put in the.
Understood. So when did you put up the one for Thrive?
I'm not sure, but I think it was obviously prior to March 1.
So earlier this year, would that be?
Probably.
Okay. All right, one other question. So you said in 2010 you believed you applied for a permit. Do you know what company you used to draft the plans for that permit?
Right here.
All right, and are you any sort of plan professional? Are
I
you
am-
an
I am-
architect,
I am
engineer?
a darn good professional.
Excuse me?
I'm a darn good professional.
Are you an architect, a licensed engineer, a
No.
surveyor? And do you have copies of those plans that you put together for that permit?
Do I have plans? No. When we applied for the permit, the frame was already up there.
All right, so according to township code, though, zoning permits, which are required for a sign zoning permits must be issued to erect a sign. And in order to submit for a zoning permit, you had to submit site plans, building plans, that sort of thing. So even if it was already up, you would have needed to submit plans.
Whatever Lori had me fill out, okay, whether it contained any of that stuff, the only place it came from was right here, so I can't tell you that I'm the only architect or engineer or professional that was involved.
Okay, are you a licensed engineer or
No.
architect? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Questions for John? Jesse?
So are you familiar with Township Code 182-701 that deals with signs?
It deals with, pardon me?
Signage?
I've probably read it.
So are you aware that, the question's already come up that you did not seek, every time you change the sign, you did not seek a permit for that.
That's true.
And I mean, you mentioned some of the uses of the sign as political use, and that's protected. But the Township Code 182-701 18G limits political signs to 6 square feet. And your sign 4x8 is 32 square feet. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that it's 4x8.
So it's,
And I believe that the United States Supreme Court would protect that sign as under the First Amendment.
up to 6 square feet, that's allowed by the township's code. I would agree with you.
I think, to be honest with you, I think it's more than that, but.
It's in the code.
No, I don't disagree that it's in there.
Okay. You also mentioned that you've erected or changed the sign to be temporary signs. Are you familiar with section 182-701B17 that limits those to 30 days and 20 square feet max?
I've read the code.
So would you agree that?
And
That your sign is-
If you think it's in there, then I agree with you.
Okay. So you would agree that the 32 square foot sign that you have is larger than the allowed 20 square foot?
Absolutely.
And that you've had the signs up for longer than 30 days?
Absolutely. But the permit I received did not say anything about 30 days on it, I guarantee you. And that same person that gave me the permit saw that sign a million times. In fact, about when the Y came in, and they wanted to take a little piece of my property so that they could make a right-hand turn on a right-hand arrow, I said, well, that's crazy because nobody goes right. Everybody goes left when they come to that intersection. And Lori agreed with me. Lori was standing there looking at that sign and saw that, and I know she's seen it a million times since. And so there wasn't anything temporary about the permit that she gave me, to the best of my knowledge.
Earlier, you made reference to several other signs, public signs, street signs, and a fire hydrant. Those are all located in the right of way? Is that correct?
Yeah, they're in the right of way, but the two posts that you push the button and the light changes, they're on my side of the sidewalk. I didn't say anything, along with the plan. Nobody told me they were coming. They just stuck them there, and I just, went along with it. But anyway.
And then I'll also direct you to Code 182-701B5, which talks about signs at intersections. And it talks about, and this goes towards, I think, what you were mentioning about it being asked to be moved back, but it says that no sign shall be erected between above 2.5 feet within the 75-foot setback at the intersection. Is your sign taller than 2.5?
I didn't hear the last part of it.
A sign is not allowed to be above a 2.5-foot height within the intersection, and your sign is 4 feet high?
It
that right?
is, but I'm telling you, I didn't see that part of it, but I take your word for it if it's in there. But I'm telling you, the fellow from the zoning board physically helped me move that sign and put it exactly where it is now, and didn't say boo about it.
I believe code enforcement, right? Not from the zoning board,
Joe Celia,
which I believe earlier we said was from code enforcement, right?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions at this time.
Bill?
Mr. Williamson, as the applicant, you bear the burden of proving your case, right, before us. I just, and so can you cite us to any state law that the passage of time while a sign stands would constitute some form of grandfathering by which you would gain a legal entitlement
Well, I
to leave it
think
there?
that would be common law.
And can you cite to any of the common law?
If you need some, I will get some for you. Thank you.
Evidence of the permit that you claim that you've received.
Right.
We've heard on the record that you don't have any evidence or any information provided to the township in applying for the permit. You don't have a copy of the permit yourself.
I do not.
And can you cite us to any law that a code enforcement officer's involvement in repositioning the sign at an intersection somehow constitutes an approval of that sign?
No, but it's an inference that, number one, I did have a permit. Number two, that the location was okay. Number three, that the size of the sign was okay. I think these are all inferences. I didn't find that letter that I provided to the court till 2 days ago. And, I pulled it off the computer. And that's why I brought that evidence out, to prove that I'm telling the truth.
You've also claimed that Ms. Widdup's correspondence with you or discussion with you about potentially citing you,
Right.
but she did not.
She did
And
not.
you're,
She did not.
I think you've been trying to suggest or have us draw an inference that the township would therefore be stopped from now coming forth with a notice of violation?
Absolutely.
And do you have case law or anything to
I
cite
don't,
to
but
that?
I'd be glad to get it for you.
Okay. And then do you rent out the sign?
No,
Have you ever collected any money
no,
for the use of that sign by any third party?
never.
And
Not that I know of.
And the,
Well, no one but you would know
Right.
if you got paid.
I never rented that sign out to anybody.
and Thrive Express Women's Healthcare does not currently occupy the premises, right?
They do not, although I am the solicitor for them. They are located in St. Louis, Missouri.
Do they serve customers here?
They do.
And
It's a nonprofit. They do free health care for women, for pregnant women.
they do that here, they serve township residents?
Pardon me?
Do you know that they have township residents as customers?
I don't know that. It's everything that, there's no way in the world that they're going to ever give that kind of information out.
Okay. And as far as you know, they have, you're a lawyer for them? Is that what you said?
I'm the solicitor, yes.
And they don't have any use or occupancy permits to conduct business in the state, or in the township, I'm sorry?
Not in the township.
Are they
Not that I know
qualified to
of.
do business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Pardon me?
Are they qualified to do business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
I believe they are, but,
Are they registered for service of process in the state of Pennsylvania?
that I don't know.
That's it.
Ed?
I had no questions. I will let the township attorney speak for the township.
Jessica?
I have no questions.
Okay, neither do I. Anything else you'd like to add, John?
No.
I would like to make a closing argument.
Oh, I'm going to ask Jennifer, do you have residents that you represent? Do they want to testify?
Absolutely.
Okay, so,
I am so sorry that my notes just fell on you. I apologize for that.
All right, can you just put your name and address on the record
Well,
first?
how about, we'll do it this way.
Oh, swear.
Ladies
Yeah.
first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address for the record, please.
Christina Webster, 704 North Eagle Road.
Now, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please.
Paul Jocelyn, 704 North Eagle Road.
Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
All right, so, Christina, I'm just gonna ask you questions first. Can you just tell me, 704 North Eagle Road, that's your residence, right? Your primary residence?
Correct.
And how long have you lived there?
I moved in December of 1998.
Great.
So
and-
Jennifer, yeah, I'm gonna ask you.
Oh,
just so
sorry, yep,
It comes across on the microphone. So
no problem.
Christina, if you
Closer
could
to
step
the
up,
mic.
so you're close enough to the microphone. You're tall, so hopefully it's sensitive enough.
No worries.
And sorry, how long did you say, when did you move in?
December of 1998.
Great, and Josh, is that when you also moved in, or did you move in at a different time?
Yeah, Paul Jocelyn. I moved in 2016.
Okay, great. Christina, can you just talk a little bit about how this sign impacts your residential property and the surrounding community?
Yes. So I remember when the original letter went out, I believe it was 2003, when it was requested for that variance for the 2x3 sign for the time. And at that time, I felt no need to come in because the previous, I guess it was a business, but they were very quiet, was there. It was a nice house. I think they were a yoga studio. It was lovely. And so I thought the next person that would come in would be equally as respectful to the residential neighborhood and would be equally as lovely. That has not been the case. That sign has been permanently there since 2010, regularly more than 30 days. And I thought the statute also said there had to be a limit of 3 times a year. So I apologize if I misread that. I wrote many emails to the township. Then I got busy with life and gave up. But I have protested that because of the fact that I felt it violated all the sign statutes of the township. And it is not a nice, lovely residential neighborhood.
So you would say that having this off-site advertisement, this billboard on a residentially zoned property is having an impact on the character of your residential neighborhood and of your quality of your enjoyment of your residential property?
Yes, I would. I no longer like sitting in my front yard. And I know that the next door neighbor to Williamson, the last ones that were there were only there about 3 years. They left because of the negative impact of living next door to that property and that signage.
Great. Do you see any sort of safety impact of having a billboard on a busy intersection? Can you just talk a little bit about the traffic at that intersection and what goes on there, rush hour or otherwise?
It's a very busy intersection, and I don't know if the billboard has anything to do with it, but we've regularly had people that are coming down the road from Darby towards me, miss the curve of that intersection and drive into the front yards and crash into things. So I can't imagine how having that sign there can help that situation when they're missing the turn by being distracted.
And so I guess at this point, just if there's any other comments about how, let me go back 1 second. So you said it's been permanent.
Yeah,
Is there ever
it's been
a time-
reinforced.
Yeah, is there ever been a time that the sign wasn't up since 2010?
No. And even Mr. Williamson stipulated to the fact that they just layer on top of each other and rotate through, so he stated they were there permanently.
Correct. And do you have any photographs that would show layering of the sign?
I will allow my husband to follow up with that.
Sure. I do have some photographs showing that the sign is layered. It's also the way that it's constructed and we probably have to.
We're gonna make you don't have any pre-marked.
We have nothing pre-marked.
So how about if we make, because they're Protestants, P as a numbering scheme, so P1, et cetera.
There's some duplicates there.
Yeah, if you want to have Arlene mark them, we can go off the record. All right, sure. We'll take a 2-minute break. Off the record, Jeff, please.
We're on.
Okay. We'll resume Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board. Jennifer, do you have any other questions?
Great, yes, so we were discussing before we stepped off the record that, as mentioned in the applicant's testimony, that he had talked about layering signs, and we were talking about how that is evidence that the sign's been up for a significant amount of time, isn't temporary, it's permanent. And so I would just like to enter exhibits P1 and P2 right now.
Okay.
Which P1 is a picture of the current sign that is up. And P2 is another sign that's been up. You can see that sign peeling off. And this is a side view where you can see the reinforcement in the back of the sign. And you can also see when you look that there's layers of sign on that sign. So did you take these photos?
I took the photos, and I should note that the photos actually were taken back in the spring. I believe it was sometime in March.
Great. So that was prior to when we were initially thinking we were having a hearing in the spring, correct?
Correct.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about, we have photos of the rear of the sign. At any point did you observe the sign being reinforced, the structure being changed, altered, improved, whatever you want to call it?
I've seen people over there working on it, putting a cinder block to support it. I've seen it falling down a couple of times. I know just, you know, I've been a resident of the township since 2000. And I know just from my experience that you know, if the township sees something, and rightfully so, I'm in property management, so I understand this. If they see something that's not, you know, up to code, as far as any sort of construction, whether it's a fence or a sign or anything like that, then it would be called out to the resident.
All right, and at any point did either of you circulate a petition concerning this zoning matter to your near neighbors on Eagle Road and the surrounding area?
I did. Actually, my wife and I both came to the original hearing date, got here, we'd missed the notice prior to that it had been continued. So prior to the to when it was continued, and I don't remember which month it was, but it was in the spring, I went around one Sunday afternoon knocking on doors of all the neighbors. I had, I believe, 21 neighbors that answered the door. Of those 21 neighbors, 19 readily signed the petition to have the sign removed, noting that it was illegal. The ones who did not want, there were 3 who did not. One, they wanted to remain completely neutral, and 2 of them did not want to sign it because of fear of repercussions from the township or Mr. Williamson.
And when you circulated the petition, you did specifically, I am going to submit the petition itself, I'm just kind of setting some record here. But when you circulated the petition, this petition does cite the specific codes that are being violated.
Correct.
And what is being appealed here today, so that they were informed of what they were signing.
They knew exactly what they were signing. They and a number of them, and myself included, and my wife, we had been complaining for years to the township. I personally sent a number of emails and had phone calls with Dan Siegel, our ward commissioner at the time, and what I ran into was, you know, a lot of people were getting hung up on the content. It's not about the content, and I actually knew, or neighborly knew, the two owners or previous owners of that house right next door, which is at it's 716 North Eagle Road. The 2 owners prior, they had been putting their house on the market, and they had to actually drop the value, the cost of the house. It was on the market for a long time when houses all over the area in Havertown were going within days, and they had to drop the price of their house. The young couple who were, I believe, pregnant at the time, they lucked out and got the house way below what it should have been valued at. They didn't realize until after they moved in as additional signs went up or covering of the signs went up, and they quickly realized that they could not comfortably sit out front, especially when there was a controversial sign, because people would be driving by yelling expletives at them, thinking that they were somehow affiliated with the house, especially when they had this little boy, Bobby, I think it was Bobby was his name, but he couldn't sit out front.
So before we go any further with that, I just want to enter Exhibit P3, which is the petition that we were discussing that was circulated amongst the neighbors. If you take a look, this is mostly neighbors who are within a block or two, North Eagle Road, Howard Avenue. They're very, very close neighbors.
Just to finish up with the most recent, they just sold their house. They had been looking forward to, and they were actually eager when they learned about this hearing, figuring that the sign was going to go away. Well, they just recently sold their house to move away.
And when we're discussing this is really to show the impact that this sign is not within the character of the neighborhood, correct? It's having a detrimental impact
And
on the surrounding neighbors.
I'm not sure what they sold their house for, but I mean, if they sold their house for a lower value, it brings down the value in the neighborhood.
So at this point, I would just say, is there anything else that you would like to add about the impact of the sign or the history of the sign, or really anything else that we haven't already addressed?
No.
I would just like to add, I appreciate everything that Haverford Township has done to enforce zoning around here and keeping our neighborhoods nice. And I would like that to be enforced on the corner of 720 North Eagle Road.
I do have some legal argument. I don't know if.
At the
now or
end?
Later. Great.
But right now, John, do you have questions? Yes, please.
Paul, is that,
Yes.
okay, Paul, I note that this document that you took around, I see the name Patrick Duffy on there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he's a friend of mine. Do you know that?
I did not.
Did you know that he stood out in front of that sign when Trump's name was up there? We talked about that a million times. Are you sure you told him exactly what was going on when you had him sign this thing?
He read the whole thing. Everyone did.
Are you familiar with Patrick Duffy before talking to him that one day?
I've seen him around the neighborhood.
And you talked about the neighbor next door. When I put up a Trump sign, they would put up Democrat signs. Isn't that correct?
What's that have to do with anything here?
Well, could you answer that for us?
I would object. This is completely irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. We're talking about a sign that's illegal.
No, wait. You guys can't
Okay.
argue with it.
Okay.
There's an objection, and we're going to give him the same latitude that we've given everybody else. So,
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. So the biggest objection was when I put the Trump sign up, when those people were living next door to me. Is that correct?
That may have been an objection that they had. We've been objecting
I'm
to
just
the
asking
sign.
about them at this point, because you're testifying about these people. Okay? And isn't it a fact that if I put up a Trump sign, they would have up the opponent's sign up every single time? Is that correct?
I don't recall, actually.
Okay. And on Eagle Road, in that first block of Eagle, you live on the first block of Eagle?
Yes, we're 4 houses away.
And are you the one with that big plywood sign out in front?
Yes.
It's not a sign.
It's not
And,
a sign, it's
huh?
it's a banner.
Isn't there a plywood out there?
Yes.
It's a
Okay.
blank piece of
And,
plywood.
and in that sign, I put up a Trump sign, you always put up a Democrat sign, isn't that correct?
Actually, I don't always put up a Democrat sign.
No? Well, you did last time, the last election, right?
I did because my daughter happened to be working for the governor.
Okay. And
His
the
campaign.
governor was Democrat, right?
Yes,
And I had Republican governor sign up, and you put up a Democrat,
Yes.
right? Okay. And my building is right next door to a pizza parlor, isn't that correct?
yes.
And right next to that is a Wawa, is a milk store, right? And then it's all commercial from there on in, right?
Correct.
And even behind the the pizza parlor, it's all commercial back there, isn't that correct? Going up Lawrence Road,
That is correct.
on both sides of me,
That
okay?
is correct.
And across the street's the Y, right?
Actually, further down the block and across the street on the
Okay,
other
kitty
side.
corner to my property.
Let him answer.
I'm sorry,
Finish your answer.
Our block is residential.
okay.
It is zoned residential.
Kitty corner,
Wait, and across the street from
And
your
across the
house is-
street from our house to the intersection is all residential.
okay.
It used to be residential on the corner on the other side that the Y took over for their little parking lot.
Okay. All right, and the Y is kitty corner to my property, right?
Sort of down the block.
All right. I have no further questions.
Yes.
We're discussing other commercial properties. Are you aware of any other of those commercial properties that have off-site advertising, like a billboard advertising a business that doesn't exist there?
I am not.
Okay, and when you put up political signs, they were removed after the election was over, correct?
Absolutely.
You don't still have up a Democrat sign?
No.
I know you do have, I think you currently have an Eagles
Eagle
flag
sign.
up. Yeah, and if the township were to tell you that you needed to take that down, would you take it down?
Absolutely.
Immediately.
All right, great. I think that, and your objection, just to reiterate, your objection here is not the political content or any other content, it is the existence of an off-site advertisement on a residential property at residential block, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Bringing down our property values.
Oh, one more second. I'm so sorry, because we were questioning about certain people on the petition. This description was on the top of this piece of paper.
It
People signed
absolutely
correct,
was,
So they
yes.
knew what they were signing. They
They
could read
did.
it. All right,
They did.
great, thank you. That's it.
All right.
Haley, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Anything else, John?
I have nothing further.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, board, any questions? Jesse?
No question.
Bill? No. Ed? Jessica? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses you want to call?
Yeah, you know, come up.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
James Roman, 202 Maryland Avenue in Havertown, PA.
Go ahead, John.
So, James, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your interaction with this intersection, the billboard, and kind of any issues that you've encountered personally about this billboard existing on this property?
Certainly, thank you. My wife and I, like I said, we live on Maryland Avenue, a few blocks away from here. We're raising our family there. We go through this intersection daily. We go through to drop our kids at Linwood Elementary or to pick them up from Linwood. We go through here to get downtown to head toward Darby Ave. And we go through here every time we have to go to the Blue Route, which is pretty regularly to go down Lawrence. We have been in the townships for 10 years, and I gotta say, not until this action happened did we realize that the township had such clear codes on the size of signage that could be at a property, and this one being 4 foot by 8 foot, well exceeding that. We've always scratched our heads at the display that's been on this corner. Specifically, you know, what I wanted to get into was the safety aspect of this, if I may. In preparation, well, let me say this. Anyone who's been through this intersection knows it's a very busy intersection, especially during commuting hours. And when I'm trying to get back home, unfortunately, I come down Lawrence from Linwood, I have to make a right-hand turn, and I got stuck in traffic because apparently there is no right-hand lane coming down Lawrence. I wish they had put that in. But there's a lot of traffic at this intersection, and quite frankly, it is a confusing intersection, especially when you're heading in the southwest direction. If you're coming from the Swiss Farms, if you're coming from the Y, if you're coming from Darby, there is a split in order to turn right or to go straight and turn left that is not intuitive. That is confusing for drivers because the lane that you are in as you approach past the Swiss Farms becomes a right turn only. And if you actually want to go straight on Eagle Road, you need to move over with 5 or 6 car lanes and then either go straight or turn left. I found it confusing, and you'll see traffic backing up into what is not even technically the correct lane in order to get through that area. People pulling in front of the Y, pulling into the double yellow lines in order to keep going. I bring that up because when I was preparing for this, I sent a right-to-know request over to the township and asked for accident reports for motor vehicle accidents that have occurred in this area, in this intersection. I was given 18 reports, and I'm not surprised to say that 11 of those involved vehicles traveling in this southwest direction. Now, when you're traveling in this direction, and you were trying to figure out if you were in the right lane, if you're going to be turning right, if you're going to be moving to the left to go straight, you are directly faced with this sign. This sign faces southwest-bound traffic, right in the line of sight of every driver coming through. That is where this thing faces. So when you have this confusing intersection, it is not surprising that 11 of the 18 accidents that I've been given in this, which I will pass up, involve traffic traveling in the southwest direction, traveling toward this sign. The most concerning for me was an accident that happened last October, involving a 10-year-old boy on a bicycle. He was in the crosswalk near Tony Roney's, right near this sign, when he was struck by a vehicle, a car, heading southwest on Eagle Road. I'm not privy to his medical history beyond that, but he was rushed by ambulance to Lankenau for facial injuries and head injuries. This is a busy intersection. There are children crossing, like my own children. There are joggers, there are walkers, there are people heading back and forth to the Y, some on foot to start warming up before they get there. It boggles my mind that we would allow a further distraction on this corner in terms of a sign that is on ground level and in the lines of sight for drivers. There's one other accident I wanted to talk about, which I only became aware of. It was not within the packet, which I'll hand up. It was posted by Manoa Fire Company. They posted these photos of a rescue they did this past October. And you'll see a vehicle here that is completely on its side, that the driver's side is into the ground and the wheels are up in the air. In order to extract the driver from this vehicle, they had to cut out the windshield to let them out. This is terrifying for me. Imagine the force, imagine the speed that happened at this intersection, Lawrence and Eagle, for a car to end up on its side. This is about more than just the character of neighborhoods. This is about public safety in a dangerous intersection. So that, I thank you all for your time. That's really what I wanted to highlight here.
Jennifer, are you going to mark that as one of your exhibits?
Would you mind if we mark it as a
Please.
protest and exhibit? Great.
Yeah, I want you to show it to John first
Sure.
and see if he has any objection, or Taylor.
And I'm sorry, how did you obtain the photos?
The photos were publicly posted on Manoa Fire Company's Instagram.
Right, everyone's on my purview.
And are you familiar with their Instagram account and Facebook account? Do they regularly post accident photos?
They post all sorts of things, everything from accident photos to training that they've done.
Okay, so it wouldn't
To
be out
calls
of
they
character for them to post a picture that's kind of important about public safety issues, right?
Correct. I
All
would
right,
say that is-
Jennifer, at this point, because we're talking so much about Manoa, I have to disclose, I would like to disclose, I am president of Manoa Fire Company. So, Ernie, ask me.
In that capacity, Chairman Kane, as president, would that impact your ability today to be unfair or biased?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, okay.
I don't even go on I didn't even know we had an Instagram.
Great. And John is still reviewing.
That's a
once
younger
we
man's
see,
game.
Our accident reports, which is going to be P5. Once he's done reviewing, I move P4, which is the photos of the accident, into the record. And once we have that back, it'll be P5, and we'll move that into the record as well. I just have a few more questions for you before we move on. Sorry, and I gotta read these ones. Sorry, 1 second. So, James, also in preparation for, we all acknowledge there was a previous hearing scheduled for this earlier in the spring. Are you done reviewing this?
Not really, but
You,
that's several.
We have another copy.
How many?
18 individual police reports are here. I have photographs.
I want John to have the opportunity to look at them, and if he's going to object to the admission, I want to hear it before they're minutes.
Do you mind if I continue?
You can continue.
Do you want to give him a moment?
No, you can continue looking at that, John, while she has questions.
Ask him a few questions about it?
Well,
She's still doing direct.
let's wait till Jennifer's done.
Okay, so while we were preparing for the previous scheduled hearing in the spring, you reached out to people in the community to kind of just do a survey of Haverford Township residents. As we know, as we've discussed at length now, this is a busy intersection with most of the township that goes through. And while this might not be explicitly like probative for zoning criteria, you got quite the response to people's concerns about this sign, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And they sent in emails to you, copying me, the zoning board solicitor, and members of the board, correct?
Correct.
And we received 25 of those emails in the spring. These are those emails, correct?
And just to clarify the record, Jennifer, no board member received any emails. We don't have township email addresses.
Okay, I apologize.
But They may have copied the zoning hearing board and sent it to the township,
It was this, I
but
think-
they were never sent or distributed to
Correct, it
us.
wasn't the board members, it was sent to the township. I'm going to correct that record as well.
Okay.
And the emails do have records of who it went to. I know it did go to the solicitor. So these were the emails that came. I'm just going to, I gave a copy to Mr. Williams. I've marked it as P6. They are from farther out than the petition is, but this is just a general showing you the large impact that this sign has had on the community in general. And then for this hearing today, you reached out to neighbors again. We received 7 more. 4 of them are from the same people as before, so we have 3 new ones. These are them. Will you please review them?
Certainly. And to answer your prior question, P6 is accurate for the emails I received the first time.
Great.
So
And
P7 is how many additional?
7 emails, 3 of them are new, 4 of them are for people that are also in P6.
And P7 is accurate as well for what I've received more recently.
So I'm going to also put both P6 and P7 into the record. Are some of the people that you reached out to here in the audience today as well?
Yes, I believe so.
I don't, in an interest of keeping this quicker, I just want to acknowledge the people, if they could maybe raise their hand to just show that they're here in opposition as well. Or
Well,
maybe-
they should come forward. I'll swear them, and they could just say they're opposed or in favor. There's no need to be redundant.
Okay, but
so-
we can do that after then. any
Right,
process.
but John's
All
going to
right.
have, and Kelly's
Wonderful,
going
just
to.
trying to keep it as smooth as possible for you guys. All right, is there anything else that you want to add at this time about health and safety issues, character, anything at all?
Well, I agree with what we've already heard and what is in these emails as well about the character of the neighborhood and the township. This display is not a community billboard as the petitioner has tried to say it is. I mean, you've seen the photos. It's a 4x8 piece of wood propped up sideways that is put up at his whim in terms of what is going to be on there. It's unsightly. It's offensive to anyone who cares about the way our town appears.
And your
That's what it
objection
comes
is
down
not
to.
to the content, it's to the existing of the illegal sign.
I mean, any 4x8 sign on that corner is objectionable. One made this poorly is further objectionable. And of course, as we're being cited, there's a citation now for something that's off-site, some business. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it is. Again, it's further objectionable. I mean, look, if the variance as requested is actually granted, it's a variance for off-site advertising. That literally means billboard. So whether or not he wants to classify it as something else, if this variance is granted, he would have the right to post for profit any business he wanted to on this corner on a residential front lawn. So that's when content comes into it. When you're talking about giving someone the right to have literally a billboard, ground level, 4 foot by 8 foot piece of wood that can say any commercial business it wants to. And that would be the legal effect of this variance. So that's when content comes into it for me.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, that's it for me unless you have anything else to add.
No, thank you for the time.
So,
Don, you have cross.
I'm sorry, I forget your first name?
James,
James? And you live on Maryland or Maryland?
that's a good question. Maryland,
Maryland.
yeah, so
You're
about
a
5
mile-
blocks away.
You're a mile from the place, right?
No, 5 blocks away.
Wait, which street?
Maryland, as in the
Maryland.
state, Maryland. Yep.
So you're down Eagle Road
So, yeah,
and
a little bit further
To
down
the
Eagle
left or
Road,
right, yeah.
about 5 blocks. I've measured it to Linwood, and it's a half mile to get to Linwood Elementary from my place.
And
In
then you
terms of
gotta go
mileage.
through all through Linwood. It's about a mile, to be honest with you.
No, it's not. It's actually, it's a half mile. I've measured it.
Measure it half mile from where to where?
From my house, which is on the south side of Eagle, to Linwood, which is on the far side of Eagle, past your property, that would be a half mile.
Okay, but we're talking about the property is a mile. My
No.
property is about a mile from your property, correct?
No, that's entirely incorrect.
And you live on Maryland Drive in Maryland Park, correct?
No, I'm sorry, maybe that's the confusion. Maryland Avenue is in the state of Maryland.
Maryland, okay, all right.
Maryland.
All right, now I
Thank
got
you.
you. Okay, now you went through all these police reports.
Correct.
Can you tell me which one of them said that this sign had anything to do with any of the accidents that took place?
Oh, none of them did, and I didn't say
None
that
of them
they
did?
No.
Okay. And would you still object if the sign was even moved further back than it is?
No, it shouldn't be on the property.
Okay, would you object if the
Wait,
property-
you asked them if you would object if the sign were moved back, and you said, no, it shouldn't be there. So would you still object
Oh, yes,
if the
thank you for
sign were moved
clarifying.
back? Okay.
Yes, I would fully object. There should not be a
Okay.
signage on someone's
All right.
residential front lawn.
And I imagine you didn't vote for Trump, did you?
Objection, that's completely
Sustained.
irrelevant.
All right, I don't have any other
You
questions.
you can ask him if he would object if it were a form of advertising that might appeal to him, but he already said no to it.
I just have one more question to follow up with what he said.
Sure.
Your argument wasn't that the signs caused the accident, it's that it's a busy intersection, and the addition of any sort of additional illegal, unpermitted signs is distracting at an already chaotic intersection.
Absolutely. So you have something that's incredibly confusing, and in fact, Mr. Williamson has pointed out that there's other signage there. There's actually, as he stated, traffic lights right on the property. And now you're pulling something, you're pulling drivers' attention away from what they need to see to get down the road safely and putting a message there for them to read. So it's adding confusion to an already dangerous intersection.
You entered the accident reports mostly to show that it's a dangerous intersection no matter what's going on there.
Correctly.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Kelly, did you have questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Jennifer?
Did you,
I mean, they can just come up, I'll swear them, and they can say they're opposed or in
would like
favor.
to say that they're opposed, if they could come up now and just enter your name and address onto the record after being sworn in, just say you're opposed or anything you want to add in.
Quickly before that, as a housekeeping matter, I'm not exactly sure the township and/or Mr. Williams actually move their exhibits into the record. I just want to make sure we have that. So, and we'll do that as well for the protestants. I just want to make sure, for the township, you would like to move exhibits T1 and T2 into the record?
Yes.
Any objection by anybody of that? Okay. And Mr. Williams, you want to move in exhibit A1, correct? Any objection to exhibit A1?
I don't have any objection.
Jennifer, any? And then for the protestants, we have exhibits P1 through P7. Are there any objections to any of those exhibits?
On behalf of the township.
Williamson, any objection?
Okay, then all those exhibits, T1, T2, A1, P1 through P7 are admitted.
I'm sorry, I missed it. You talking about the exhibits that were just put out?
Yes. Do you have any objection to any of those?
I would object to the emails, unless they're here. I don't have a problem if they're here to testify. I would object to the police reports in as much as they admitted as that sign had nothing to do with.
As just as arguments, I would argue that we should object, you should enter the emails and weigh the evidence as you see fit, whether or not you believe them to be trustworthy, accurate, or how probative they are. It's better to be more inclusive in the record. And when it comes to the police reports, that is a township record that we're asking to be admitted in order just to show how dangerous this intersection is. And that is actually a factor when we're weighing zoning decisions.
And not necessarily causation between the sign and the.
Correct. It's not, that's not why it's entered. It's entered to show the dangers of the intersection in general.
All right, so we're going to admit them and give them the weight they deserve.
Thank you.
Hello? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God?
I do.
And your full name and address?
Joan Tarka, Tarka, 664 Paddock Road, Havertown. I've lived at that address for 10 years, and I pass the property at issue at least 5 times a week, and I'm opposed for all the reasons that have already been stated.
Okay. I know it's going to seem crazy, but
No.
I need to. John, do you have any questions?
Just one or two. That's a real familiar name of the township.
Yes.
Joan Tarka.
Yes.
You ran for, against Steve Friend, or?
Yes, I did.
Okay. On the other side from Steve Friend,
Yeah,
correct?
okay.
Yeah, no
Yes.
further questions.
Is there a question?
No.
Okay.
There was no question. Did you run against Steve Friend? That was the question.
Yes, I
Said
did.
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Kelly?
I have no questions.
Jess? I'm just going to say the board. Board?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a matter of clarification, are they entering party status now?
No.
Or are they, okay, they're just providing
Witness.
public comment. Okay, great.
Public comment. Yes. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Patricia McGoldrick. It's McGoldrick. I live at 112 North Drexel Avenue in Havertown.
What would you like to tell us, Patricia?
Just that I oppose the request for the sign to be up. We have these rules for a reason, and I think we need to abide them to protect our township. I am not somebody who sent in an email, so my appearance is in addition to anyone else who's already protested.
Okay. John, question?
Just that you live 2 miles from this intersection, is that correct?
I pass it at least twice a day on my way to Villanova, where I work.
But you do live 2 miles from it at least, right?
I have no idea what the mileage is.
Thank you.
Kelly? Board? Okay. Thank you, Patricia. Okay. Now. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please, Margaret.
Margaret Peggy Murr, 1747 Westchester Pike, Havertown, in the Haverwood condos. On one of the emails, and I oppose the sign. My son works at the Y. He walks over there sometimes, most of the time. I drive to pick him up a lot, and we need to pay attention to that corner. It's a safety issue. We want people concentrating. You yourself admitted you had the 2 controllers there for the lights. People need to be aware of driving, not reading anyone's sign. I just want to go on record that I oppose it, and you have my email.
Okay. Kelly? Wait, Peg.
I don't have any questions.
John?
No, thank you.
Board? Thanks, Peg. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address, please.
Jennifer Davis, 11 Chelton Road.
I didn't get your address, Jen. Sorry.
11 Chelton Road. And I oppose the sign. I am not an email, so I'm in addition to the emails. I walk my elementary school child to Linwood regularly, and I agree that that is a dangerous intersection. I also drive through the intersection regularly, and I don't think that we should open the door for people in the township to have large signs. And just because the sign has been there doesn't mean that it meets code and should continue to be there. So.
Okay, thank you. John?
No questions.
Kelly?
No questions.
Board? Thank you, Jennifer. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and address, please?
Shannon Connolly, spelled Connelly. My address is 2300 Belvedere Avenue.
What would you like to tell us, Shannon?
I'd like to say that as a resident, about a quarter mile from the sign for the last 17 years or so, I have long thought that that sign seems very incongruous with a residential neighborhood. Additionally, I am very mindful of what a distraction it is at a very busy intersection.
John?
I have no question.
Haley?
No question.
Ward?
No.
Thank you, Shannon. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole
I
truth?
will affirm, but not swear. It's not in my
Do you
religious.
swear or affirm
I
that
affirm.
the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
I
help
do.
you God?
I do.
Your full name and address, please.
Christopher Hay, Hay, 132 West Hillcrest Avenue, Havertown.
What would you like to tell us?
That the signage is beyond the scope of the essential character of the neighborhood, that committing an offense for 14 years on the row as a scofflaw does not legitimize it any more than me stealing something every year for 14 years would legitimize theft. It's beyond the nature of the township to sustain this kind of stuff, and it's the thin end of the wedge, which would allow, when would it become a neon sign? When would it become 8 feet by 12 feet? When would the issue stop? That's the nature of my objection.
John, questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions for you. Were you in here when I testified as to getting a permit from the township?
I heard that as hearsay because you didn't offer any evidence. But
Okay,
that's
so, but if I got a permit, if I did indeed have a permit, would you still call me a scofflaw?
The permit was timed and
If
limited.
I indeed had a permit, would
And
you
was
still
it
call me a
timed? Did
permit?
it time out,
And
sir?
then,
or did it not?
it's not argument. He gets to ask you a question. If you know, you answer. If you don't know, you say you don't know. If
Permits are
Jennifer
timed.
or Haley have an objection, they interpose it.
I withdraw my question.
Okay. Haley, board?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
that it, Jennifer?
I would like to,
Christina.
to back up some of the conversations about the intersection.
So just to keep the record straight, Christina Webster, correct?
Yes, Christina Webster,
And you were
704.
Earlier, and you're still under oath. Go ahead, Jim.
Just to talk about the dangerousness of the intersection, I have personally been impacted by 3 multiple accidents that have happened. The house on each side of mine had people crash into trees, and in one of them, they resulted in death, so I could not ask the person what it was that distracted them. The third one crashed into my husband's car that was in my driveway, all of them traveling from the same direction through that same intersection, from the direction of Darby Road going down. So it is indeed dangerous, and billboards are not needed because it's just going to impact and make things more distracting there. And I just felt a reason to come up here because any questions about police reports and all, I personally witnessed them. I called one of them in because it was early in the morning and I was a volunteer firefighter. And as you can see, at the time, it's emotionally impacting and it's dangerous. And it's a concern that we should all worry about, and that is why I believe why we don't want the billboards in the township.
John?
Oh, sorry. Do you have any questions, sir?
Yeah, I sure do. And you're the one that lives on Eagle Road with the big plywood sign out in front, correct?
That's correct. I have a
And
plain.
what size is that sign, by the way?
Personally, it's not a sign.
All right, is it 4x8?
It's not a sign. It is not under discussion. It is not part
No,
of
no,
this
we're
situation.
not going to argue. He's entitled to ask you questions.
Okay.
So if you know the size of it.
It is.
Tell him the size of
It's
it.
a piece of wood that is 4x8,
It's the same size sign that I have.
but it's not a sign.
And it's also, right, it's not a sign, and it's right on Lawrence Road, Eagle Road, probably less than 100 feet from my sign, correct?
I honestly can't say because I haven't measured it.
No further,
Well, it's 4 houses down, whatever that
Yes.
equates to.
no further questions.
At any point, have you had a on your piece of wood?
I did not. At one point, I had a sign there. Right now, it's a green painted piece of wood with a little eagles across the top of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Kelly?
I don't have any questions.
Board? Okay, thank you. Any
I
others?
have no more witnesses.
Okay,
And so just, I reserve the ability to have a legal argument at the end.
okay.
At this point, is everybody resting? Anything further? I mean, we're allowed for legal argument, but
In your
nothing
case in
further in your
chief.
case.
I would like to, if the board is going to listen to this petition, which I just found about tonight, I would like to leave the record open and so I can have a petition with the same, my point of view on it, to be signed by various residents in the neighborhood.
I would object to that, as we were all given notice of this hearing. I believe it was personally scheduled to meet Mr. Williamson's schedule, and he had ample time to reflect his own support for the matter.
I would also object. I think there was adequate time for him to be able to do that, and there's no need to build a direct response to their evidence in that way.
How soon could you get it in?
Within 2 weeks, I could have it
What about a week?
done. It will be done.
And if we keep the record open, keep it open only for purposes of submitting a petition, or would you guys like the ability to ask questions about it?
I would like to be able to examine it and question.
I would object to anything outside of the scope of that petition, continuing being open, having the record open for the purposes of anything outside of the scope of that petition.
This matter was originally scheduled for September of 2023, and it was continued several months until today. I believe at the applicant's request, holding the record open at this point for additional evidence, I think would just slow down the process at this point.
Can I argue something about it? I asked for a continuance. I'm sorry. I asked for a continuance, but the reason that the thing was pushed back all the way to December was not my schedule, it was somebody else's schedule. The other attorney here couldn't do it for that whole month and that whole next month or whatever. And the law, I think, said that we were allowed to have it continued up to 40 days. And at that point, those guys weren't able to have the information or attend this hearing, if I recall correctly.
I believe there was a list of dates that were provided, and this was one of those list of dates, but I was available, I was on the email chain, I was available for more than, this wasn't the soonest date that our office was available.
Right, but it wasn't just me who went at the point where it was continued, it was everybody else had to have an open schedule too, correct?
So, but if you said that there's now more time, I'm not sure how that doesn't prevent you from gathering your evidence, if you had more time to gather your evidence prior to today, even if it was continued, no matter why.
Well, the other thing is, I don't think that the evidence that has been presented I didn't expect that to be used in this type of a setting, you know? Somebody doesn't show up, and they're gonna send an email. Somebody doesn't show up, and they're gonna hand it a petition.
Well, you objected to it, and
Yeah.
it's duly noted that, the zoning hearing board's level as to pertains to, rules of evidence is lax, but the chairman indicated that he would give it due weight, noting the objection for the hearsay. I mean, additionally, you're looking at, want to consider it, the police records. There was no custodian here to examine or to testify as to the records itself. The chairman admitted them into the record and will give due weight. So, if your argument is simply you're objecting to it because they're not here, we can allow that to come in and provide the proper weight as we feel deemed or the board feels deemed necessary for it. So,
Yeah, I
adding the additional, how does that add to your case?
That is what I'm going to
The
present.
petition.
If you guys are going to listen to 20 names on a piece of paper, and take that as evidence, then I would like to be able to present that same thing. And I'm only asking for a week, as we,
Well, in terms of the scheduling, I believe the dates that were given, as I was the one that gave them, were October 5th, October 19th, November 2nd, and November 16th, which there was some scheduling back and forth, ultimately picking December 5th, or I'm sorry, December 7th today. For the record, I would leave it open to the chairman at this point, but I think the record has been submitted, and this has had ample time from September till today to prepare for tonight's hearing.
And we're not going to leave the record open, and we're going to give the petitions that were submitted their proper weight, realizing that you haven't had an opportunity to cross-examine anyone who submitted those emails. So the same would hold true for any petitions that you were to submit to us. So we're not going to leave the record open. Is there any other evidence or testimony that you want to give in your case in chief, or should we move on to public comment and then closing? People that represented her. So, okay, then I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, who hasn't already testified. Anyone that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township? Kayla, you said you wanted to do a close, right?
Yes.
Okay, you go first.
Okay. Thank you so much for making the time to listen to us tonight. I would ask the zoning hearing board to find that the notice of violation that the township issued was proper. I called Gary Smith, the zoning officer, who walked through all of the requirements in the municipality's planning code for a proper notice of violation. And this notice of violation was properly issued. Additionally, it specifically lists that there was no permit received. While I acknowledge that Mr. Williamson has said that he did receive a permit from Lori, you heard evidence from the zoning officer that that's not the way the permit process works. Even if he were to have received a permit for that type of sign, the sign is too large and he would have had to receive zoning relief in order to even get that permit. So I think the board can weigh the credibility of that argument because without zoning approval, he would not have even been able to get that permit. But as you saw from the permit list from Mr. Smith's testimony, there was no permit issued. Additionally, the sign is too large. Mr. Smith testified to that, and other individuals spoke about how large the sign is. And as I said, even if a permit was issued, which we assert that it was not, it would have required initial zoning relief. Additionally, Mr. Williamson admitted that he changed the sign multiple times. I think he listed over 15 times that he had changed that sign. And as Mr. Smith testified, every time you change a sign, it is considered a new sign. So again, even if he were to have been given a permit for that initial space, every time that he had a new off-site advertising or anything that he put on there, it is a new sign, and there is a new violation of the zoning code because of that. Those temporary signs, according to the zoning code, are given 30 days and then they expire. So we assert there was no permit issued in 2010, but if there was, certainly 30 days have passed since then and multiple other signs have been placed there. There's been some discussion of the types of things that are on the sign. I will direct your attention to the notice of violation, which specifically calls out that it was a Thrive sign at the time. That was an off-site advertising for a business that does not exist or operate on the premises. So I'd ask you to specifically consider what was on the sign at the time that the notice of violation was entered. There's been some discussion about it being grandfathered in. There is no support for that in the case law. None has been presented today to support that is an exception to the rules of a notice of violation or the rules of the zoning code. And regarding the request for a variance, I don't think there has been any evidence submitted tonight that would support that there's a hardship on that property that requires the need for a variance or meets the very strict criteria for a variance. No testimony about anything unique about the property that would require a large temporary sign. In fact, there's been some strong testimony to suggest that it would not fit the character of the neighborhood and that it would not be safe for the neighborhood. So I do not think that there is evidence to support any request for a variance for that sign. So those are all the things I have for you to consider. I know that was a lot. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Jennifer?
All right, so Lister hit a lot of my points, but I'm going to make a brief legal argument. We've discussed here today significantly the safety issues concerning this intersection. And when we look at our township code, and when we look at the laws surrounding off-site advertising and their impact on health and safety, it is very clear that you are allowed to prevent off-site advertising if it has an impact on the health and safety of the community. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just find my site on that with my Post-it notes. I was looking for it before. But here, it's Section 182-701, A1E. I'm just going to quote it for you. The Board of Commissioners is aware that the United States Supreme Court has stated that if a city has sufficient basis for believing that billboards are traffic hazards and are unattractive, then obviously the most direct and perhaps the only effective approach to solving the problems they create is to prohibit them. Furthermore, is to prohibit them. And also here, it says that the Pennsylvania courts have repeatedly observed that the land use of a billboard advertising may be prohibited provided that the municipality evidences that the prohibition is substantially related to public health, safety, and welfare. I would argue that we have presented today that this intersection is already extremely dangerous. And any further distractions at it would in fact have a detrimental effect on the health, safety, and welfare of the community. I just also wanted to touch, we talked about hardship. Our code states in 182-1004 that in order to grant a zoning variance, the applicant needs to show that there is a hardship caused by the unique physical conditions of the property, that those conditions prevent a conforming use of the property, that condition is not created by the applicant, and that it will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Furthermore, that the relief being sought is the minimum necessary to provide relief from the requirements of the code. I don't know about you guys, I didn't hear anything about a hardship. I heard nothing about the characteristics of this property that require it to have an off-site advertisement that's 4x8. There's definitely no argument that 4x8 is the minimum that would be needed in order to relieve any sort of hardship. And it's absolutely created by the applicant. He put up the sign. No one forced him to. He didn't purchase the property with the sign. No one's forcing him to keep the sign up. There was no economic argument that, it was an economic hardship. There's really no, I think there was an attempt to say that it's within the character of the neighborhood by citing the other commercial properties nearby. But those commercial properties, as we heard testimony, do not have off-site advertising. They have conforming signs or permitted signs with or without a variance for their business, which is permitted under township code. And essentially, if the granting of this variance would mean that I could put up a sign on my residential street that's 4x8 for Walmart or for Chili's or whatever I want it, because we're just going to say it's okay to put up a 4x8 sign on a residentially zoned property to advertise whatever business we want for no reason other than we want to. I love Chili's, I love Walmart, whatever, that could be the reason. So, you're going to set a really dangerous precedent too, if you're going to grant a variance where there's no hardship and really no reason to do so. And with the secondary effect of, we explicitly state in our code, one of the reasons that we prohibit this type of sign is a health, safety, and welfare of our community. And that's backed up by state law. That's backed up by our code. And you've heard a lot of testimony here today about horrific accidents, about personal stories about accidents, people feeling endangered walking across the street trying to get to some of our really great facilities like the Y, or walk to Linwood School with their children. And so I would just, in summary, say there's no hardship here. There's no reason to grant a hardship variance. And I think that the solicitor did a great job of summarizing all the other stuff about the violations and how they were legitimate. So I'm just going to let her use that argument. And I hope that we can preserve the health, safety, and welfare of our community today by denying the variance request. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. John?
To start off by saying, listening to my learned counsel here, I don't think there's any question that there's nothing whatsoever that sign has to do with health and safety. I think that their main witness from one of the co-counsel here just appeared on the scene a couple days ago, and it was not familiar at all with the records of Haverford Township. The main witness for the other counsel talked about this information from this person that lived down the street from me, and drive by that place. She admitted she's got a 4 by 8 foot plywood sign, and I think it's hypocrisy to even be here when she's got that sign sitting out there all the time. And one of the other things is it's clearly, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty obvious from some of the witnesses here, that what they're trying to do is eliminate my First Amendment rights. I think it's real clear that the next door neighbor was not of the same party I'm in. Several of the witnesses were not in the same party I'm in. And if you look at the history of the sign where it was attacked 15 times, there are obviously First Amendment issues here. And I think by thwarting me at this point is taking my First Amendment rights away. I am perplexed that I'm here. I got that permit. I think that letter that I wrote to Lori long ago proves that she did give me that permit. Also, the township knew, because I told them that I had a permit. And if you look at all the correspondence and the applications that were made after the citation was put out on March 1st, it talks about these things. And if they weren't true, the fact that Lori gave me the application and gave me the permit, the fact that Joe came and helped me move the sign over 8 years ago, makes it very clear that I did have a permit, and they knew about it. That sign has not been hidden for 14 years, and I think it's very clear if you look at the evidence that I did get a permit for that, and township should stand by that. In the meantime, I've put up with all the things that were done to my property: detour signs, fire hydrants, pedestrian things. Didn't say boo. And it's funny that this thing comes up when I have 4 huge detour signs on my property, and the only thing they can see is the Thrive sign. I think that it's really clear from tonight that this sign is going to end up with a lot more litigation than presented at this point. And perhaps I'm thinking there might be a way to resolve this without a lot more litigation. But in any event, I got the permit. I have a right to have that sign there. It was not removed. Nobody took that permit away from me. Nobody canceled it. And I think the evidence is real clear. And the township knew about it. If I'm lying, I told them in advance what my argument was going to be, and they have not proven anything, haven't shown anything that I'm not telling the God's honest truth, that I got that permit 14 years ago and it's never been revoked. Thank you.
So with that, I'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered either this evening if we're able to. If not, one would be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is December 21st. That's it. I just want to, Bill is next, right? Bill, you're next, if you want to come up. We're going to go off the record, take a couple-minute break. All right, we'll resume the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board. Our next case is Z23-29. Erica Shell Rompre. All right. Lessee of 17 Mifflin Avenue, Suite 207, Havertown, PA, DC, folio number 2202-00852000. Who seeks an appeal from the determination of the zoning officer that a school providing Spanish enrichment programs, including baby and me classes, preschool classes, kindergarten enrichment, Spanish clubs for elementary students, teacher training, and workshops, is not a permitted use of the property, and a request for a finding that the proposed use is a continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming use pursuant to section 182802A. In the alternative, the applicant seeks a special exception pursuant to provisions 182802B1 to expand the pre-existing nonconformity and/or a variance from 182802D1 to allow a change in nonconforming use from an office to a school use. If necessary, the applicant also seeks a variance from the applicable off-street parking requirements of section 182707B. Property is zone R6 and located in the 2nd Ward. Whew. Testing my vocabulary, Bill. Jesus, right.
And what I am.
I still smoke, you know. All right. Yeah. How are you, Bill?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good evening, everyone. William Malone, on behalf of the applicant, Erica Shell Rompre. I am going to, with the board's leeway, I'm going to run through the exhibits which have been pre-marked A1 through A15, give an indication of what they all mean to me and why they're being presented to the board. And then I intend to call two witnesses at the current time, both the applicant as well as the owner of the property, Richard Brown. So if that's agreeable to the board, I would like to start by going through the exhibits themselves. Thank you. Exhibits 1 through 3 are provided. One is the excerpt from the County of Delaware site showing that the owner of the property is 17 Mifflin LLC. The second exhibit is an excerpt from the lease between 17 Mifflin LLC and my client. And the third is a letter of support from the landlord providing his support of her moving forward with this application. I believe that's sufficient to establish standing. I will call him just for a very limited purpose as my witness after I get through all of these. There were 2 certificates of occupancy issued. They are exhibits 4 and 5. The first one, dated August 23, 2023, is the one that mentions or at least alludes to not allowing students, children, or the like. It says no children on site, no classes of any kind. The second one, which is Exhibit A5, simply says that it's a CO for corporate office. It used to be a wheelchair sales office. Number 6 is the zoning application. And the reason I want to point anything out on this to you is that if you look at the zoning application, which Mr. Kane kindly read to us a bit before, we don't view this as a school. And we did not use the word school. And as I'll get to when we go through the exhibits, I believe it's number 8, there's a dearth of definition of school in the township code. There's only 2 definitions, and I'll get to those and explain our position on those. Number 7 is the floor plan that my client can testify to if there's questions regarding where she proposes to utilize the facility for office purposes, for storage purposes, for things that she might need for her program. She'll also testify that the majority of her program or programs are actually outside of 17 Mifflin. 17 Mifflin would be just a small portion of her business. Section 8, which is the one or Exhibit 8, which I refer to, is the definition sections of the code. 2 sections stand out. One, it says business or trade school, and I can believe we can all agree that this is not a business or trade school. There's nothing that really, I believe, needs to be said. The only other thing that's defined in the code is nursery school, day school, or kindergarten. And that's defined as a facility which provides daytime care and instruction to a number of persons between the ages of 2 and 6 years and operates on a regular or seasonal basis. It goes on to state that a license from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Public Welfare is required for any such schools. My client will testify that what she provides and the service she provides is not something where she can actually get a license for from the Commonwealth as a school, because it is strictly Spanish-speaking, non-English-speaking services that are provided there. She'll explain her contact with the state regarding that. Section 9, or Exhibit 9, is simply the provisions for R6 and R1. This is zoned R6, which piggies off of R1. None of what we are seeking fits any of the subject property uses that exist now on the property or are proposed to exist. Again, and I'll ask Mr. Brown, the owner, some questions regarding that. Number 10 are photos of the lot, which shows, and this is most important, this is exhibit, 10, shows pictures of the lot. But what it also shows in those pictures, besides the fact that it shows substantial parking, is the fact that this is clearly not a residential building. This is a building with various uses, none of which are residential, and you'd be hard pressed to put a house or living quarters into this building. And again, Mr. Brown will indicate what's been used there before. Number 11 is something put together by my client and I, and it's fairly voluminous, but it's a parking study and references some other businesses in the township for precedent's sake. And 2 of the ones that are really the most important are the Mainline Music and Dance Studio at 684 Pont Reading Road. They provide dance, music, and karate, and they're zoned R6. So very similarly, they're providing instruction in various areas, enrichment in various areas, and enrichment's a term you're going to hear. This is about enrichment of the Spanish language. Well, that's enrichment of the dance and the music and the karate. And the other one is the Creative Clubhouse, which really stands out, and that's at 2402 Hearst Terrace, which is also R6. I'll jump ahead to Exhibit 12. It's an excerpt from Creative Clubhouse, which is there, and you will also have seen the picture already. And Creative Clubhouse provides substantially more services that would be akin to a school than my client's proposed use does. Next, Exhibit 13 is an excerpt from Movements in Motion. Movements in Motion is a dance studio, which is also located at 17 Mifflin Avenue on the bottom floor, and they have children they have classes, they have a lot more traffic of parents that stay and watch. My client will testify that her intent is basically, and by experience of the place she's been, has her people she's instructing, the children she's instructing, get dropped off and picked up, which then alleviates a lot of the parking concerns. Number 14 is a letter of support from one of the entities for which my client provides services. And then finally, 15 is section 106, which is the parking if necessary. Our position would be if in fact a variance is needed for parking, well, we actually don't believe it is, because if you look at this and look at the standards, if you look at this as an office space, then it would be one space for each 200 square feet of floor area, exclusive of basement, if not used for office purposes. This proposed use would have to fall into the buildings or uses other than specified above, and there calls for one space for each 1,000 square feet of gross floor area or lot area, whichever is larger, except where this board can authorize, as a special exception, the use of the property and the parking as is. So with that, I would move for the admission of exhibits A1 through A15, and I would like to call Mr. Brown as my first witness.
And they're admitted. Come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear this evening?
It's Richard Brown, manager of 17 Mifflin LLC and owner of the building.
So you're the managing member of the LLC?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, did you hear me go through my description of the exhibits provided to this board?
Yes.
And did you hear me indicate that the county website shows that 17 Mifflin LLC is the owner of the site?
Yes.
And that is correct?
Yes.
And you are authorized to speak on their behalf?
Yes.
And you have authorized my client to move forward with this application with the understanding that she intends to provide Spanish enrichment classes in addition to her office use at the subject property?
Yes.
And are you agreeable with that?
Yes, I am.
Can you give the board just a little idea of what this building looks like and what type of uses have historically been in the building, not just related to Suite 207?
So the building was built in 1916, and originally it was a bowling alley. At one point, it was a repair center for trucks for the quarry. It had oil tanks and all kinds of equipment in there. When I purchased the building in 1998, it actually was a mint. It was called the Philadelphia Mint. The company made coins for casino tournaments. When I bought the building, the first thing I did was go to the township and talk to the zoning officer at the time, as well as the fire marshal, and asked if there were any concerns with the purchase of that building. It was in bad shape when I bought it, and the parking lot was all potholes, and the coins were being minted, and there was a lot of noise, and neighbors were not happy at all with the way the building was. The fire marshal at the time was Jim Marino, and he said that if I moved into the building as it was, then I could stay and do anything I wanted in that building. I manufacture sound absorbing panels, and I sell window treatments, and half the building is a warehouse. His concern was that the building had a 2-mile evacuation zone because in the event of a fire, there were all kinds of chemicals in that building. And he was not happy about it, but he said, I can't really do anything about it if I move in as a single user. So we worked out a plan that as I would bring tenants into the building, I would sprinkle the whole building. So we did that as a design and sprinkled it over time as the tenants moved in.
Okay, let me stop you there. Was there ever any consideration given to, after your purchase, turning this into some sort of a residential building?
No, the building is R6 non-conforming, and it's been that way for 100 years.
Do you think it's even viable to change this into a residential facility?
No, not without knocking it down.
Okay. And you've already answered my other question, that you're aware that it's in a residential.
It's non-conforming. It can be a train station. I could put a bar in there. I can do just about anything I need to do.
What uses are there present on site?
So I have a window cleaning company. I have like a massage therapy tenant, and I have a camp, but the camp does not run in there. It's just for storage. And I have a dance studio as well as my own business.
What's the name of that camp?
Camp Pegasus?
Okay. Did Camp Pegasus at one point have some on-site use during the summers when they operated?
No.
Okay. How about Movements in Motion? Is that the dance studio you're talking about?
Yes.
How big is the area in which they're leasing from you?
They have the entire lower level.
And to beg the question, what do they do?
They have dance classes, parties.
Are these for children, essentially?
Yes.
Okay, and can you give an estimate to the board as to how often they would have classes on a given day of the week? Whatever way you can delineate it, whether daily, weekly, or something like that.
I believe their schedule's mostly after school and on the weekends.
And do you have any idea how many, whether you want to call them students or instructees, they generally have on site at any given time?
No, I don't know how many.
Fair enough. That's all the questions for Mr. Brown.
Any questions? Jesse?
Do you know the square footage of the lease at question tonight?
Not exactly. I could look it up, but I didn't bring it with me.
It would be helpful as Mr. Malone, noted about the calculations for parking. So if you could figure that out tonight, that would really help us.
I think it's around 1,800, 1,500 or 1,800.
Okay.
We can provide that.
Okay.
We'll just need 5 minutes. It's in the exhibit.
Okay, great.
Exhibit A7, and then we just have to do the math.
And so you said there's about, did I count? There would be 6 tenants in the building, counting the one that's on the docket tonight? Is that right? 5 or 6?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how many parking spaces are in the parking lot?
There's about 30.
And what was in the space before, the current space that we're talking about tonight? What was in there before that is vacated now?
It was called Mobility, actually a couple names, but Mobility of Pennsylvania, I think. And the company sold wheelchairs and walkers and hospital beds, and also instructed the people on how to use them in that space.
So was it mostly offices, or was it a sales floor? Did people come in? Were there items that people could come in and off the street and buy, or was it more of an office space?
It was both.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
No? No questions. Ed?
Yes, I'm looking at the list of things that you've given us. So this one building has, you listed a window cleaner, massage therapy, a camp storage area, a dance studio storage area, a dance studio, and your business. What is your business?
My business manufactures sound absorbing panels, and when I sell and install window treatments commercially.
And all of these uses all have certificate of occupancy for every one of those?
Yes.
Is there any vacancies in your?
Yes.
How many vacancies have you had with prior certificates of occupancy?
I'm not understanding the question.
So in other words, you had these vacancies in your building that are no longer, or maybe never. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Did you have other businesses in there that were approved by the township?
Yes.
That were, So now, what other businesses are you trying to lease these spots to?
It's open to whoever wants the lease if it conforms with this, with the codes.
So that should be in your calculations for your parking spaces as well?
I don't understand the question.
In other words, for every tenant, you have certain requirements for parking spaces. So these vacant parcels, the vacant units, also have that calculated in?
I guess you can look at it that way, but I don't have assigned spaces for any tenants.
Okay. Well, there is a requirement for every use to have certain square footage, to have certain type of event. If you have vacancies, that every time we do this, this question is trying to establish what is currently approved for parking as a non-conforming use at this point.
My understanding is that the building has been non-conforming for 100 years, and each space doesn't warrant its own calculation.
And you have no prior township zoning case that supports that?
I've never had a problem with the township, no.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica? Bill, you have anything else? Okay.
I'll call the applicant, Michelle Routray.
Hello. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address?
Erica Shell Rompre, 1813 Belvedere Avenue.
Got that, eh? I thought you were going to ask her how to spell her last name, because I'm looking onto the agenda so I don't mess it up.
So my first name's actually with a K, if I want to get the record straight.
And this is why, Bill, as you well know, I go with first names, because I can't mess Erica up.
Thank you. Erica, you heard me open and identify all the exhibits to the board. Were you listening when I did that?
Yes.
Did you understand everything I said?
Yes.
Are you here to adopt what I said as if it was your own testimony?
Yes.
You also heard a question regarding square footage of the space that you are renting. Do you have that calculation?
I do.
What is the
It's
total?
1,761.38.
Could you please tell the board members a little bit about your business as it exists today? And then we'll move into what your vision is for the business.
Sure. So I'm a Havertown resident. I've been a Havertown resident since 2005. I'm a mom of three. All went through Linwood, where I test piloted my business a number of years ago. The majority of my business is actually outside the township. I'm currently operating 2 enrichment programs in Philadelphia public schools. I have additional staff that go to those places to teach. I offer enrichment at preschools also outside the township, and Spanish clubs that are before and after school programs anywhere between Delaware, Montgomery, and Bucks County, Chester also.
And what is your intent with regard to the property at 17 Mifflin?
So, as you would imagine, I have a lot of teaching materials. I needed a place to organize them. There's a lot of photocopying happening, and my kitchen table was no longer sufficient. So I was looking for a place to organize my materials. I also use a lot of props. I believe in hands-on learning and interactive games and so forth. So I need a lot of props. So I needed a place to put all of those things. And I've hired staff, so I need places to train my staff, have meetings, and the bonus of the space that it was big enough that I would be allowed to, or able to, have additional programming on location.
Let me stop you with regard to programming for a second. You heard me mention to the board the 2 definitions that were pertaining to schools, and the one was nursery schools, day schools, kindergarten. First off, do you consider yourself any of those?
No.
Second off, you heard me mention that in that section of Haverford's code requires for nursery school, day school, or kindergarten that there be a license from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Public Welfare. Did you hear that?
I did.
Do you have a license by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
I do not.
Why not?
Because in my research and preparation for moving forward with having a space, I want to understand all the different options and what are the legality. I work with children. I take it very seriously. I take their safety very seriously, and I wanted to understand how all of that works. And the reality is that a school that he's referring to that needs a license, I can't actually be one because I do Spanish instruction. And per a conversation via email that I corresponded with the Pennsylvania State Department of Education, under their bylaws, I am not required to have a license. They won't give me one, even if I asked.
All right, and with regard to the young people that come, well, first off, what's the general age group that you look at in terms of these enrichment
I
programs?
start around 9 months because that's when little ones can sit up. I do baby me classes and parents attend with their child through little guys, so those are preschool age, up to about 5th grade. And then in proximity to the middle school, and hopefully there's actually a parent here who has a middle schooler that's hoping that I'll be able to have a middle school program.
So if I was to, again, assert to you that the definition in the code for nursery school, day school, or kindergarten talks about persons between the age of 2 and 6, am I correct in stating that your vision of what you're looking for is beyond that?
Correct.
What is, generally speaking, the timetable or time frame that an individual would come to you for these enrichment programs? And if there are different types and different timeframes, can you let the board know?
Sure. So the little guys, typically 10 a.m. is when they're not eating, sleeping, or napping. So I book that around 10 a.m. on Saturdays and on one day during the week. And then the club stuff has to happen outside of school. So that's either a before school program, but typically that wouldn't happen in, I guess, the new space because the kids need to get to school. But the after school would be around 4 o'clock or so.
And how long would these sessions tend to last?
About an hour, less if they're littler, about 40 minutes.
Okay, and through your experience, what do the parents typically do when their children come to you?
So the baby me, they're too little to be on their own, so they stay with their parent, guardian, or nanny, or even I've had grandparents and dads come, which is great. And then the elementary kids, they'll get dropped off.
Have you had opportunity to be on the property recently just to start, building up your business within the leased premises?
So I've been in and out of the building quite a lot and on premise often since August, when I first started looking at it. And during the summer, there was very little activity. And then more recently, kind of incongruent with the school year, they started the dance programs, and those are typically in the evening. So right around 6 o'clock to maybe 9 o'clock roughly is when I see cars in the parking lot that I don't recognize.
Have you made observations when you've been on site as to whether there is overflow parking needed? Have you ever seen the
No,
parking?
I've never seen the parking full. During the day, it's pretty much empty. And even in the evening, some parents don't stay. They do drop off. So I've never seen the parking lot full or double parking or anything like that.
Okay, and we presented this parking and small business study. Did you prepare that?
I did.
Okay. And are you comfortable with the code classification for each of those
Yes.
areas? Okay. And with regard to movements in motion, have you seen the parking lot have you been present on site when movements in motion was having class?
Yes.
And in those times, has there been an issue with parking when they were actually having classes?
No, I've been very easily able to find parking adjacent to the entrance.
Tell me a little bit more about your vision in terms of how often you would want to have programs on site versus office. I guess what I'm looking for is there a percentage use that certain percentage is going to be for office use and planning and storage versus actual enrichment programs? If you do.
It's a little tough. I'm an entrepreneur, so this is a new space for me. I'm gonna kind of guess 70-30. I don't know, or office to start off and 30% classes, because it's a new location. I'd have to, build up the fact that people are gonna come to this location. I don't really know for sure. I
And
hope
you've
that's a
had
good
other
guess.
locations other than going to the schools in
I've
Philadelphia?
rented space, initially at the American Legion building in Grassland Park. When I first was getting started, through the township at the rec building. During COVID, I operated just over here in the park. I'm gonna forget her name now. The township was kind enough to let me rent that space and use that for outdoor programming. And Ardmore United Methodist Church.
Okay, so when I questioned you earlier about drop-offs and the volume of parents and whatnot, that's based not just upon speculation, but on your experience with
Yes.
these other areas? Yes. Okay, and when you say that you reached out to the township, did they indicate any objection to you having anything like a, quote, school in any of those three areas?
No.
Okay, and you were permitted to use all three areas by the township?
Yes.
You indicated or provided in your packet this creative clubhouse building. Is that the one that's on?
That's the preschool that's right by the intersection of Darby and Eagle Road.
Okay.
And next, adjacent to, I guess, the closest other landmark would be the Oakmont administrative building for the town school building, I think it's called.
Right, but this is further towards.
Close to it, I guess. I'm trying to think of another bigger building that people might know
Well, it's
of.
behind the
The
gas
rest-
station that got knocked down.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually all I have. I think it's really, ours is going to be a legal argument that this is a continuation of a pre-existing nonconformity. So unless the board has questions,
Let's see. Bill?
Yep, so, Erica, thanks. Do you have other employees that would be working with you at this site?
They're all part-time, so they're not there would not be there very often. So my Saturday classes, the teacher would be there from 10 a.m. until about noon, for example.
So in the other days, where you said maybe one other day a week, you have some for the little kids.
Yeah.
That's you teaching that from 10 a.m.?
Probably to start, it'll be just me on Mondays at 10 a.m. Yeah, I'm kind of building out, what's going to work, and I'm a firm believer of start small and see how things go.
And then for the afternoon enrichment programs for, I guess that's mostly kindergarten age, right?
So we go through elementary like I do right now, and as I mentioned, language isn't offered in the township really until 8th grade, so there's a need, and so I envision that I can expand to have include some of the older kids from 6th and 7th grade, but typically my programs that offer to elementary are K through 5.
And so you teach all that yourself too?
No.
No,
I
okay.
have other staff.
So as you grow, you'll expand to more employees, that's the plan?
Yeah, I have sufficient right now, and the expansion, just so we're clear, is mainly outside of this building. So like,
I'm only asking about this building.
yeah, I'm just
So,
making sure
yeah.
well, you're asking me if I'm gonna hire staff as it expands, so I wanna make sure I'm clear, yes, but the majority of the people won't be in that building. I just need to clarify that because it's important, I think.
So let's say in the first 6 months, how
Yeah.
many part-time employees total, headcount, do you think you'd have? One. And over time, if all of your plans come to good fruition,
right?
How many employees on site do you think you'd have?
In a week or in a day, like?
In a day, in a typical day?
2.
2, okay. And then how many kids are in a typical day, whether they're infants?
Right.
And I'm not counting, you don't have to separate the parents from the children.
Okay.
Just how many family units are coming in here?
So
Are you
I keep
contemplating?
those classes small because once you have 5 kids and you have 5 adults, that's already 10 people. So I usually try to stick to 8 for the little guys. And then for learning purposes, each class size wouldn't be more than 20 because it just defeats the purpose of when you're teaching to have more than 20, it gets funky. And then there are 2 classroom spaces, but you can't have that many in each. I would still follow, and maybe that's what you're leading towards. So like, even though I'm not a school, I said I believe in safety, so I looked up how the codes work and what's required and what's allowed. And there's square footage based on the age of the child. So if the child is preschool age versus the child elementary school age, there are limitations, and I would stick to those.
And the little kids aren't going to be there when the bigger kids are there, right? You said little kids are there during the morning, bigger kids would be
Yeah.
afternoon enrichment?
Yes.
So really, you're talking about maybe up to 20 kids split in 2 classrooms with 2 teachers at one
Yes.
time?
Yes. Yes.
And you said the parking lot never seems full.
I'm not there. I'm not parked there with my tent camping out. So I'm trying to use verbiage that I feel we'd all be comfortable with.
So-
Every time I've been there, my observation has been that the parking lot is not full during the day, especially during the day. In the evening, I've gone sufficient times because I'm getting some, things dropped off. So I go and take care of that in the evening. And, it's not full still. So that's just my personal observation.
How many times have you been there, do you think, just witness parking in the afternoon, post-school time, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock? Roughly.
From August until now, probably 40, 50 times at least.
All right. Of the 1,761 square feet in your office space.
0.38.
0.38.
How much, what percentage roughly of that is really going to be for storage or for kitchen or office use as opposed to enrichment or teaching?
Can I just look at my thing
Sure.
real quick?
Initial bathroom.
So 500. I would roughly subtract 500 square feet. One's going to be my office, and the other one is going to be where they do crafts.
So I just want to make sure I heard that right. So of the 1,760, about 500 would actually be used for the teaching and enrichment programs. The rest.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked the other way around.
Okay,
I
I
apologize.
just want to make sure I knew how you were answering.
Yeah.
So the 500 is
My
for
bad. Yes. So
non-instruction?
1,200 roughly would be for instruction. 500 would be, give or take each way.
Okay, no problem.
That's on me. I wrote it down wrong.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then do your students tend to carpool? Or do they get, someone drops them off and then a parent comes back and picks them up?
Sometimes.
Okay. And do you do consecutive classes? Is this just a one-hour block in the afternoon?
So, I'm envisioning doing on Saturday from 10 and then to 10:40 and then 10 to 10:40 and then 10:50 to 11:50. So yes, back to back. There's a 10-minute window for that purpose so that there's time given between classes so they're not clogging up any hallways, anything like that in the building. Yeah.
And so if a parent needs to drop a kid off a little early,
Yeah.
do they have a place to sit and wait for their class to start
Yes.
while you're in the other classes?
Should have had my assistant who's putting some furniture together for me. Yes, I've actually purchased 2 large benches, at least this long, to accommodate that. Inside, have them inside along a wall.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Ed?
Yes, I'm getting lost here in the numbers, but is it 12? What is the square footage again for the whole unit you're going to take up?
It's 1,761.38.
Okay. Have you calculated what your use and where do you fit in the parking requirements and how many parking spots you would require?
Based on my knowledge, looking at it for the first time in my life of how that works, it looked like it was sufficient to me.
No, I don't mean a judgment call. I meant by looking at the ordinance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I did my calculations and it looked like it met the requirements, that it was fine.
I don't even know what that means. The question is, you have a business that's going to
Yes.
operate in a unit.
Yes.
And you have to provide parking spots.
Yes.
For that business. How many parking spots does the ordinance require of your business to be there?
If
If you're
it's,
not sure, it's okay.
I was gonna
Bill-
say, I'm
Bill will
trying,
be
I don't have that
calculating it.
paper on me, like I looked it up a long time ago and kind of
If I could.
left it aside, maybe he
If
can
I
help
could,
out.
if we parsed out, if we want to do it that way, just to make sure, and we say that we have 561 square feet of office space, well, then we're going to look at that as, all right, so we're going to need 3 spaces, because one for each 200 square feet. But then the remainder is 1 space for each 1,000 square foot of the
Right.
remaining gross. So at most, she's going to need 5 spaces. I would argue it's actually 4.
That's what I meant. That's how I divided it myself, so I'm not.
But again, it's if you look at it as a pre-existing nonconformity, the wheelchair business would have been subject to a higher standard or have been required to have more parking because that was office as well. And the whole 1761.38 would have been subject to the 1 out of every 200 square feet. So we're actually reducing the parking burden on the property.
Was it based on your assumption that, or your contention, I should say, that this is not a school, it is an office?
Well, I think that's the thing. It's been approved for an office. They said no for a school. We didn't ask for a school. We just asked to do enrichment, which would fall into that other category in the parking, something otherwise not defined.
Do you know offhand what the parking requirement would be if it were a school?
You can ask her, Zoe. Actually, I don't have that in front of me here. No.
Excuse me.
But again, it's not defined.
Bill,
It's not
the
defined.
zoning officer
Yes.
is raising his hand.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Wait, if you're gonna testify, I need to swear you in, you need to put it on the record. So, come on up, Gary. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
Gary J. Smith, zoning officer.
What was the question? Ed, you had a question for Gary, right?
The question is, if it were considered a school, how many parking spots would that unit require?
The code section says for private kindergarten child nurseries, 1 space per 600 square feet. So again, that's 1/3 what would be there for an office use.
So it'd be less?
It would be less as well,
Okay.
correct?
Thank you, that's all I needed. Thank you, appreciate that.
Jessica?
On your application, one of the uses listed is kindergarten enrichment. Are your future plans to offer kindergarten aftercare for schools?
So, to me, aftercare is different than an enrichment program. An enrichment program would be to offset any kindergarten that's not happening at that time, or if a person decides that they want to have additional instruction, like language, aftercare would be after school hours from 3 to 6 typically.
So enrichment to you would be, let's say if a child was in AM kindergarten.
Yes.
At 11:40, they would come to your building and stay until 3 o'clock.
Approximately, yes.
Somewhat functioning as a school or a daycare.
No, Knowledge Points actually is an aftercare and before care program. They're on Brookline Avenue. They have no parking, and they offer kindergarten enrichment, and they're not a school.
What are they considered, a business?
I believe so.
And did you, I guess, Marge, I don't know if you remember when Knowledge Points came, what they were classified as.
I literally have no idea.
Okay. So you will have students on site for, let's say, 3 to 4 hours at a time.
No, more like 2.5, I think.
Okay. And how many students would you expect to be enrolled in that program?
I don't know. I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to be totally honest. This is a new space for me. I don't know if it's going to work. It's an idea that I have. And like I said, I'm only going to follow what the law says. I'm not going to pack 100 kids in there.
And that
it's
kind
the
of
same that I answered before.
And that kind of enrichment program would not require any license from
Correct.
the state to operate.
No. As many do in the state of Pennsylvania. There are many programs that don't require licensing that exist, like Knowledge Points Kindergarten Enrichment Program in Haverford Township.
So outside of the kindergarten enrichment, what would be the longest span of time that children would be staying in the building?
I don't want to operate as an after or before care program. I looked into that through DHS because I want to make sure I'm following any regulations. I don't want to be a daycare provider or an after or before school provider. Parents picking up early in the morning or later in the evening after school.
I don't have any other questions right now.
Jesse?
Hi, Erica. All my other questions have been asked, and this might actually be a question for Bill or for the owner of the building, but would you accept a condition that the parking spaces, as many as we deem necessary, would be identified for the tenant?
That's a question for the owner, who I'll be happy to recall.
I don't have any other questions than that question then.
Do you have anything else, Bill?
I don't, thank you.
I have, all of mine have been asked and answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it, Billy?
Recall, Mr. Brown?
Erica, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brown, reminding you, you're still under oath. Did you hear Mr. Poynton's question about designated spaces?
Yes.
Okay, is that something that is an option for Ms. Shellrow?
I prefer not. The spaces vary in the use, the building, people come and go. It's been non-conforming like that for 100 years, and I don't want to say these are your 5 spaces if I don't have to.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add, the spaces are lined though, currently?
Yes, and I have handicap as well.
And that's shown in the exhibits. We have an overhead as well as a couple lateral views of the parking.
I have actually, there's a large parking lot and 2 other driveways that are part of the building.
Anything else?
No, we just wanted to make sure we asked before, just to make sure that, we didn't surprise you with any kind of conditions that we might put on there so that would complicate things later.
I've never had any conditions or restrictions on any tenant in that building in 25 years.
Thank you.
Jessica, any other questions? Ed?
No.
And in the past, I don't know what's been done, but I would suggest that the proper course of action was followed by this tenant. And, it's not like, and I appreciate what you're saying. I understand. You're saying, I've been doing this forever. Why is somebody coming to me now? And I would suggest to you that somebody probably should have been coming to you before. But that's in the past, and here we are. So Thank you.
Just briefly.
Sure.
So, again, our position or argument that we're making is that this is a continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming use. I think it's important to look at the section of the zoning code concerning non-conforming uses because it specifically indicates that they're looking for appropriate groupings of compatible and related uses. Well, you got that dance class downstairs. You have this, it's compatible with everything there. You have office spaces in there and this, so I think that fits. However, in the event that a special exception is needed, the questions become, is it suitable? I believe the testimony shows it is suitable for this type of use because it's being used for the same thing downstairs. There's been no indication that there would be any change that would be detrimental to the neighboring property or the character of the neighborhood. This is all internal to the property. And we've already heard testimony that we're reducing the parking requirements. It will serve the best interest of the township, in our opinion, because it's going to provide enrichment to maybe not all township residents, but township residents. We're willing to, obviously follow whatever conditions the board would impose. And these circumstances were not created by my client. And it's really not due just to the general nature of the area, because the general nature of the area is in fact residential. So this really is particular to this property, which then alternatively, if we have to go down the variance route, there's your hardship there. And the suitability of it with regard to impact upon highways and whatnot, I don't see any discernible change from what was there existing at the time.
Well, isn't the storage place adjacent to this building too?
No. So this, if you were on Darby Road, going towards Westchester Pike, right before you get to Burger King, you make a right onto that street there, and it wraps around to the building on your left-hand side. The storage facility is then further, you can't get there to the Burger King because it dead ends, or it loops back around, and you can't get to the storage facility.
You can't drive to it,
You
but
can't
it's very
drive to
close,
it.
isn't it?
It's very close.
And so is the Burger King, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ed, Jessica?
No.
I know it's late, but I wouldn't do my due diligence if I didn't say, if at all possible, my client would love a decision tonight. If not, we certainly understand that you still have another case and your time is short. But thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks. All right, with that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone that received regular mail, any other resident of Haverford Township? Anybody want to say anything? Okay, with that.
I'm back.
I can just swear you again. You swear truth help you God?
I do.
And full name and address for the record again?
Jennifer Davis, 11 Chelton Road.
And what would you like to tell us, Jennifer?
I am very much in support of Erica being able to run her enrichment program out of this building. She mentioned that there was a parent here that wanted enrichment for their middle schooler. That is me. I found her because I want my children to learn other languages, and those programs don't exist in our schools until 8th grade. So, I've been with her, I think 7 years maybe, and both of my children have been through her programs, and one of them has aged out. So I have been pushing her to find a space that she can teach my older child. So I'm very much pro her having this space.
Okay. Questions? Board? No question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello again. I
Hello
need to do
again.
the same with you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Shannon, right?
Yes.
Last name?
Last name is Connolly, spelled Connelly.
And your address, Shannon?
I live at 2300 Belvedere Avenue.
Okay, and what would you like to tell us?
Thank you just for the opportunity to speak up here for a moment. And I'm here not as a township resident tonight, actually. I'm here as a foreign language enthusiast, specifically someone with a real affinity for Spanish. And I say that because I was a Spanish major in college. I lived in Spain for several years. And then for many years, I was the study abroad advisor for a major university for all of their Spanish-speaking study abroad programs. So I have a real interest in Spanish language. I am delighted to hear about small companies like Erica's that are doing, I think, terrific things to begin to ignite that interest in kids understanding foreign languages. Over the years, I've been able to watch Erica's business evolve and grow, and it's terrific because it now actually spreads across multiple, it's in Bucks County, Chester County, Delaware County, and now in multiple schools in Philadelphia. So the portion in Havertown is actually pretty limited. It's almost sort of an administrative base, I guess you could say. But that said, what she's doing, I think, with these future global citizens is tremendous. And I'm super mindful that living in the United States in the 21st century, knowing how global our world is, as well as also how multicultural, that being able to plant the seed of foreign language enthusiasm and knowledge can make a world of difference. So it is for that reason that I am in great support of Spanish Exploradores, and I really hope that Erica does have the opportunity to create this physical space in Havertown.
Muy bien, gracias. Any question? No? Thank you.
Gracias por su tiempo.
De nada. Okay, loco? Ayúdame, loco. Okay. Anyone else? With that, we'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered either this evening. If we're not able to render a decision this evening, one will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on December 21st. And there's no way we're going to do it, Bill. I'm going to go late to finish their case because it drug too long. Otherwise, we would. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, our next case, Z23-30, Donna and Eugene Fitzgerald, owners of 841 Penn Street, Bryn Mawr, PA, DC folio number 2205-00811600, who seek relief from the provisions of 182-802B for the construction of a dormer over a portion of an existing non-conforming rear yard, property zone R6, single-family home, and located in the 5th ward. Good evening.
Good evening, Board.
Sorry about the wait. It was a rough agenda
it
tonight.
happens,
There's no way to predict how long cases are going to take.
Past our bedtimes probably, but thank you for hearing this case tonight. I'm Scott Rothman from Curley and Rothman in Conshohocken, and I'm here on behalf of the owners and applicants Donna Fitzgerald and Eugene Fitzgerald, the owners of 841 Penn Street, zoned R6 residential. For purposes of marking exhibits, is it possible just to expedite things, we can mark the entire application with attachments as one exhibit?
Generally, we don't, but
All right,
yes.
we can go through
No,
them.
let's do it.
Okay.
So we'll mark it A1, applicants exhibit A1.
And while on exhibits, I'll also would like to add, I have a letter here from a neighbor named Maggie Dobbs and Tom Donnelly at 837 Penn Street. This was sent over to Ms. Buchanan earlier today, and I have copies for the board. I'd like to mark that as exhibit 2.
What was the address?
Their address is 837 Penn Street. Maggie Dobbs is actually, I believe, a member of the Planning Commission, but she's written, her and Tom have written a letter in support of this. I have that.
Is 837 the immediate next door neighbor?
Is that immediate next door? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jess. All right, in addition, I have just a new drawing from the design professional here that I'd like to mark as Exhibit 3, which I don't even think Ms. Buchanan has seen. May I approach to pass out copies of this?
Yes.
Might be useful. Okay. And I'll pass out the letter as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right, having marked these exhibits, I would like to bring on the testimony of Eugene Fitzgerald, just to get right to the evidence.
Okay.
Mr. Fitzgerald, you'll stand here. I'll move over here.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address for the record, please.
Gene Fitzgerald, 841 Penn Street.
All right, Mr. Fitzgerald, are you here tonight to apply for either a variance or a special exception to allow you and your wife to reconfigure, I guess, the dormer window in connection with an attic renovation in your home?
Yes,
Okay, and do you understand the reason that we're here in terms of why do you need permission from the zoning board in order to go forward with the building permit?
I do.
Is that because your house is considered an existing nonconformity with the rear setback?
It is.
Okay, and do you understand that your house is roughly, what, 100 years old, is that right?
1904, I believe.
Okay, over 100 years old? And do you know how far the rear roof line is from the rear boundary of your property?
Not precisely.
How about approximately?
3 feet
Okay, only 3 feet from that
from the rear.
boundary. And as far as you know, has it been that way at least since you've owned the property?
Yes.
Okay, and how long have you owned the property?
We moved in September.
Okay.
I've owned the house since 2017.
Okay,
It's going to be our retirement house, but COVID.
all right. And do you know how long the that rear setback encroachment has existed? Do you know if it's from the time the house was built?
To the best of my knowledge, since 1904.
Okay. And do you know what the current rear setback is for an R6 medium-density residential district?
25 feet.
25 feet, you're correct. And are you, with regard to your proposed plans, are you doing anything that's going to cause any further encroachment into that roughly 3-foot buffer between your property line and the back of your house?
Not at all.
Okay. So what are you effectively doing, though, with respect to this proposed renovation?
In order to get up to the attic, we need to expand the dormer and lengthen the stairway so that it meets current code and that I have clear and safe access to the attic. I included in the exhibits, when you look, you'll see I have to crab walk to get up and down into the attic. So there really isn't any way there isn't any way for me to safely get up and down there, let alone to make use of the space.
And what would the proposed design that's been here now marked as Exhibit 3 accomplish? And I can give you a copy.
As I said, it would allow me safe and ready access to the space. I'd be able to reasonably use the space.
And specifically with regard to that dormer window, because that seems to be sort of a substantial change in terms of exterior appearance. Why is that necessary to reconfigure that dormer window?
The way the stairwell is right now, again, if you go up, there's a beam coming across, and not to get too demonstrative. As I said, I have to crab walk up and down those stairs. The opening is about yay big. So there's no way for me to make use of the space safely in its current configuration. The dormer would allow us, and Jimmer designed it, to lengthen the stairwells and go into the dormer so that I'd be able to access it.
Okay, and what do you use the attic for?
I would use it for, storage. I have some collections that need some, safe storage. There's very little storage in the house, dating back to 1904 in terms of closets and such. I have books. I have collections that I would like to store. I would also use it as a place perhaps for my grandson to stay.
Okay. Do you have enough storage space in the main part of the house? Is there enough closet space, or is that insufficient?
It's insufficient. I still have what I had mentioned, my books, etc. I've still got that at my old house.
Are there any closets on the main floor of the house?
There's only one that was built into the utility room. It's about 2 feet by 2 feet. That's it on the first floor.
And the second floor has a bedroom that's used as what, like a small office currently?
Correct.
Is there a closet in that room?
No,
Right? And then there's a rear bedroom on that floor, is that right?
correct.
And is there a small closet in that
There's
room?
a small closet in that room.
So is part of the reason you need this attic space for storage because you have limited closet space through the rest of the house,
Correct.
right? And after consulting with your design professional, is there any other configuration with respect to at least that dormer window that would possibly work to accomplish what you're looking for, which is safe access to your attic?
My understanding is this is our only best option.
I have nothing further for the witness.
Okay, Jesse, any questions?
Good, well, yeah, I was going to ask if there was any other way to save the existing dormer, which seems very lovely, but you've already answered that question. Could you describe the general materials that you're proposing? Will they match the existing house in the same character?
It'll match in the exact same character, yeah.
And the roofing, it looks like you're proposing a standing seam metal roof, is that right?
Jimmer? Yes.
And so the siding and the windows will be of a similar style and color as the existing house?
Yes.
And I believe it was testified that the dormer is going to be wholly within the footprint of the house. You're not extending it towards the setback line?
No, it's wholly within the footprint of the house.
I don't have any other questions.
Is this dustpan dormer, right? Is this the minimum amount of space that you need to get safe access to the attic? How did you figure out the dimensions on this?
We had an architect in who did a design and figured out how to do it.
Okay. And the sense was this was the least amount of relief you would need to get access to that?
Correct.
Okay. And then just one other question. I think you mentioned you would like it to be for collections, storage collections, and maybe an
Maybe
overflow
my
guest room?
grandson,
Yep. So you're going to, when you put this new enlarged dormer on, you're going to finish the attic? Is that it?
Yes,
Okay. And is that part of this project?
yes.
Okay. And in so doing, were you planning to add any plumbing to the attic? Are you going to put a bathroom up there?
No, electricity,
Okay.
environmentals,
But
no
no water?
plumbing, no water.
And no kitchen facilities?
No.
Okay. So it would just be bedroom, storage, living space, but no kitchen or bathroom amenities at all?
None.
No other questions? Ed?
Yeah, and just to further what Bill was saying, would you accept the condition that you would not use the space created by the dormer as any, to increase rental opportunities and use it as a separate rental prop?
I would accept that, yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
I'm sorry.
Have you checked with the neighbor behind you to see if they have any issues with the project?
They were notified. I have not talked to them. It's a rental property.
Okay.
Don't often see them.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
I thought of one other question, if I may. Are you aware is your house listed on the historical, Haverford Township historical list?
It is not.
It's not. Okay, thank you.
One quick housekeeping. I don't think identified these as part of the application, so I don't think they're actually part of A1, is that right?
That's why I think I called that one.
Got A2, or you had A2 written on it? Okay, so I'm sorry. All right.
That's the architect's
Yeah,
A2, but that could be confusing. You're right. I think I had the letter as 2 and the drawing is 3.
All right.
But yes, those
I'll
were,
make sure. Okay.
that was a new drawing that was prepared for tonight. All right, nothing further. And we'll rest.
Okay.
You want to move to the admission of your exhibits, right?
For exhibits 1, 2, and 3.
They're admitted. Anything else, Bill?
No, Litany, I guess, right?
Yep. Make sure nobody else has any
Yeah,
questions.
was anyone here who received certified mail that wishes to testify about this case? Anyone who received regular mail that wishes to testify in this case? Anyone else in the room who would like to testify in this case? Okay, there being none. Scott, your case is, you're done?
We're done unless, I mean, I can field legal issue questions if need be. I can make an argument.
No other questions from the board? All right, so we'll close the record on this case.
All right.
And it looks, we're supposed to have already left the building by now, so I
Right.
doubt we'll be able to get to
Right.
decisions tonight. But if not, we will be doing, as you could probably tell, a series of decisions at our next regular scheduled meeting on Thursday, December 21. You do not need to attend. You can simply call Margie afterwards on the next day, the 22nd, and she can tell you what the decisions were, so you don't have to attend. Okay, and there's a possibility we're going to go and meet in executive session. I just don't know if we'll be able to come back out and vote. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I can always send you an email too.
That works. Thanks, council.
Bill. Bill.
Sorry you had to wait so long. Yeah, I didn't anticipate that first case taking quite so long. So we're in recess. We're back on the record. All right, we'll reconvene the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board. Before we get to the decisions, I just want to, on behalf of the board, and anyone's welcome to chime in or just agree, whatever, I want to wish Kelly Kirk all the best in wherever her future leads her. She was invaluable to us, and I appreciate very much. I've known Kelly for so many years now, every year that she's worked at the township, and very much appreciate everything that she did for us and for the residents of the township. So Kelly, good luck.
I completely agree. Thank
Here, here, yeah.
Concur.
And I'll be talking to you. Now, with regard to tonight's caseload, case Z23-20, John Williamson, owner of 720 North Eagle Road. Jesse, are you prepared to vote? I am. Bill?
I am.
Ed? Yes. Jessica? Jesse, would you please take that decision?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with regards to case Z23-20, I would vote to deny the appeal of the notice of violation issued by the Township Zoning Officer and deny all alternative relief requested.
Bill?
I agree.
Jessica?
I agree.
Ed?
I concur.
And so do I. That application is denied in all respects, 5-0. With regard to case Z23-29, Erica Shell Rompre, lessee of 17 Mifflin Avenue, Suite 207, Havertown, PA. Jesse, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Bill, are you?
I am.
Jessica?
I am.
Ed?
Yes. Bill?
Sure.
You want to take that one?
Yes, thank you. With respect to case C23-29, I would vote to deny the appeal of the determination of the zoning officer, but approve by special exception by special exception to change an existing non-conforming use to another non-conforming use of similar classification, subject to the following conditions. There shall be no more than 20 customers or students in the premises at any one time. There will be no daycare operated in the facility, and the project will be completed within 1 year in accordance with the notes of testimony.
Jesse?
I agree.
Ed?
I agree.
Jessica?
I agree.
So do I. That application is approved with those denied in part, approved in part with those conditions, 5-0. With respect to case Z23-30, Donna and Eugene Fitzgerald, owners of 841 Penn Street. Jesse, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jessica?
I am.
Jessica, would you like to take that decision?
I would make a motion to approve the application with the following conditions. The additional space will not be rented. No plumbing or cooking facilities will be installed on the third floor. Water will be directed so as not to adversely impact neighbors, and work will be complete within 1 year in accordance with the notes of testimony.
Ed?
I concur.
Bill?
I concur.
Jesse?
I concur.
So do I. That application is approved with those conditions, 5-0.
And we have
Okay, you have minutes?
So I would make a motion to approve the distributed minutes for the November 16th meeting with the revisions made by Bill Rhodes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, we have minutes. Any other administrative matters? Okay. And we are adjourned.